TSM, this is their first game. Didn't play yesterday. This is they're the team who kind of got the bye in the first day, and I think coming out swinging, that's what you need to do in your first game, isn't that really how you start your journey? And keep in mind, they're already points behind. Obviously, they have a game in hand, technically, over other sides, but yeah, they need to come in here and really get things going, and that's going to set the kind of bar, isn't it, against every other team. Every other team in their group's going to be watching TSM, and if TSM come in today and they absolutely smash FURIA to pieces, whoever has to play TSM next are thinking, ooh, don't know if we want to play that game now.
For sure, and we do have the map ban phase in effect right now, and that information is coming up on the screen. Gentlemen, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, we saw a little bit of a pause from TSM in picking their map. Looks like FURIA didn't go for the Villa ban. I was pretty confident that would be the play. TSM saw it was open, they're going to go for it. That's a very strong map for TSM, so they're happy to take it. They beat Parabellum twice in the qualifiers. FURIA, on the other hand, going to pick up the Clubhouse. Another bit of an interesting. I thought I had this map ban down. I was pretty confident what was going to happen. We haven't arrived on any of the maps that I was expecting so far. Looks like we will be ending on Chalet. That's one that I think TSM. I'm worried because they've let Chalet all the way through. I was almost hoping they'd ban it. It's a 6-game win streak for FURIA. Everyone bans it against them, and they've let it go all the way to the decider. Jackie, this is a map ban phase that's going to get interesting.
Ooh, Demo, what you thinking?
Yeah, Chalet, I think, is the only one that me and Jesse actually thought would see here. And I think it's because TSM, NA teams, they like Chalet, they'll play it. Equally, so will LATAM teams. LATAM teams have really adopted Chalet throughout this year. But the other two, before we, obviously that's decider, we have the first two maps. Villa is really weird because we've seen a lot of Villa so far this tournament, and I think it's a map that it doesn't really favor one side. Every team seems to leave open Villa. Every team will play it, but I wouldn't say it's everyone's favorite. It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly been one in North America that we've been avoiding over the last couple of stages, and TSM especially, like, haven't been playing a ton of Villa. You look back on their record, and it's one that can be kind of one-sided. I think that for FURIA, it's one they've struggled on. 8-game losing streak as well, so I'm not super confident that they'll be able to take it, but maybe they can use that unfamiliarity that TSM have with the map.
All right, well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your excellent analysis as always, but we are ready to go. TSM versus FURIA, BDS versus Dark Zero. Let's go!
Well, you can tell Jackie is damn well excited about this game, and so we all should be, Tim. TSM have arrived here at the Invitational. Not that they weren't here before, but this is their time to shine and show everyone what they've been hiding away. They've had a pretty rough run, to be fair, having to come in through the quals rather than through Stage 3 and through the NAL itself. But FURIA are coming off the back of a win yesterday, so not the easiest opponent in the world to start up for TSM. I'm excited to see how it goes down.
As you said, it is really a surprise to TSM and how they got here. We've got to focus on that fact because this is a team that made it through to the semi-finals last time around. You know, they're not messing about. They're no slouches when it comes to international competition. They are certainly capable, and I'm expecting big things out of this TSM side here. I said it earlier on, I'll say it again. I want to see some big performances out of NA. The jokes have lasted long enough now. It's time to put them to bed, and it's time for NA to be turning up and really competing. And this is one of the teams that definitely can do that, but they have got a little bit of what is becoming a Brazilian powerhouse sat in front of them. Slowly but surely, FURIA are building themselves up. They are now a regular on the international stage, and that's no easy thing to do when you play in Brazil. Look at the names of the teams they're having to beat out of those spots.
It's a big team to come up against, though, in the form of TSM. Lots we could talk about here, but we'll get through the bans first. Flores going to be the first one coming in against TSM. FURIA taking that one away. We've seen a good number of these bans come in so far, and I look back to Alems from BDS saying over in EUL, he is arguably the strongest operator in the game right now. And whilst not every team does play him, he's very strong when he is seen on the field. Thatcher, a go-to expected ban coming in here from TSM, followed up by the Valkyrie, feeling like very default bans on their side, Tim.
Yep, we'd expect to see probably a Mirror or a Maestro making up the last one, but we have had a few curveballs over the last couple of days. We've had sort of Wamai and a couple of others slipping through there, but no, this time it will be the Mirror. So that's going to be our complete operator ban lineup for Villa. Flores, Thatcher, Valkyrie, Mirror will not be in play. You mentioned Flores, obviously, and his power. And if you start wondering why, what is it about Flores that's so powerful? I mean, one thing is his flexibility. He's got 4 Rotero drones that can go in. They can destroy a lot of utility. They can be used to move defenders out of locations. They can be used for soft breaching. It's such a flexible gadget. But I think the other thing that was basically said about them was, you sort of think, well, it's a drone, just shoot it out. But the point is the level of attention that it takes. You're basically having to focus on these things coming in potentially all the time. And there's a lot of other things going on in a game of Siege, and when you draw in that level of focus from one operator, it becomes difficult to then properly pay attention to everything else. So that is one of the big strengths of Flores.
Well, that was a lot of the justification given around Super the other day, missing 3 Roteros racing past him on Oregon the other day. You know, busy calling out, hasn't got time to also engage the grey gears and focus on the drones running across your feet. It was a pretty unfortunate case there. Anyway, for FURIA, they have brought along the Goyo. So without having that, the Roteros on side, you can afford to bring along more shields. You do still face a risk from things like frag grenades, of which TSM do have 2 pairs. They've got 2, of course, on the Finka and 2 on the Sledge. But the really spicy pick on this team is going to be that Finka. Sorry, the Finka. It's the Ying. I'm looking at too many names. Looking at the Ying, because that's all about the executes. Their goal as a team is to get to the site and execute using the Ying. That should mean that for FURIA, if they spot this Ying out early on, they want to get up in the grills of TSM, shut them down with a couple of C4s from below, and stop them getting to an execute point with all 5 alive. And that is a wonderful way to start it off. It's shutting down Merc early into the round.
Fantasy with a big opener for FURIA there, as you said, just taking down that sort of secret weapon, if you will. You know, the Ying may be a little bit unexpected, but Fantasy just locking down that study side of the map there, having absolutely none of that quick approach coming in from TSM. Now, the site that they're going to be defending is, of course, downstairs, dining and kitchen, but FURIA are going to hold on to the top floor for as long as possible. They don't want Achieved getting in there and doing too much damage with that sledgehammer. Now, Highs has just got himself positioned on the red stairs, and this could be a sneaky little spot here, Des. I'm not sure how aware TSM are of his location. There we go, that's the drone. That's what we want to see coming out of TSM, is that thorough information game. FURIA are a team that if you allow them, they're going to try and hurt you. They're going to try and move around the map in unexpected ways, do things to surprise you. Fantasy taking a lot of damage there, and the top floor clearance is well underway from TSM.
That would have been the shield getting blown out by Achieved as he rappelled down onto that Astro window. Yes, he's down to low HP Fantasy, but is still in the game. And it was almost a cast the curse as I finished saying the point about stopping them getting this full 5-man execute. You've literally picked out the crown jewel here and bringing down the Ying, because now for TSM, this becomes a pretty normal round. You can play behind the frags, but really that's about as far as you're going to get. You do not have the bunker buster that is the Ying to make this execute work. So there is a lot of work for TSM to still be doing. They're focusing up on this top floor. We're down to that final 75 seconds or so, and you can see that most of FURIA are gathering on site. 3 members there. But the other 2 that are off site, those are the ones that if this Nomad hasn't gone and done their job and got those stairs locked down with air jabs, they will be coming up their backside in the last 30 seconds and netting a couple of kills to close out round 1.
TSM pretty safe on the top floor. Chalet has deployed those air jabs from the Nomad, so they're not likely to get flanked up there, but they do need to start moving down to the bottom floor at some point. Rare is going to pick up the Nomad just as I talk about Chalet. That is going to leave them now in a 5 versus 3. FURIA with the advantage here. Fantasy is low health, but with 35 seconds left to go, TSM are running out of options. There's Toxic Babe canisters are going to start to slow them down, and that's the first kill coming in for TSM there. Gio just managing to get that kill onto Fantasy. He had a sliver of health left. Rare manages to take down Achieved. It's all falling apart here. Highs, Lender, FURIA, they take the round, and that's going to be a strong opener, defending the dining room to kick things off.
Very strong start coming out from FURIA. Again, it was more about the disruption play early on. The TSM having to funnel their way in through, off towards the right-hand side, in through a single doorway, blocked out by smokes. Everything was slowed down. they'll look at that round and probably say it's a write-off. We lost the Ying. That was our primary focus in the round. Already coming into the next one, they've changed things away. Merc is stepping across onto the Twitch. Now, it's worth talking a little bit about TSM because they have made some changes coming into this competition. Achieved has moved away from being the go-to IGL, and Merc has taken up that spot. What was interesting for me in the last round was they said the main reason for that is Merc, well, what they've also had to do is change roles where Bolo is more the entry and Merc is now the flex player, because you don't really want your go-to Ashe main being the one that's calling for the team, because you're in the front line, you don't really get a great view of what the team is doing from the back or the middle. You're right at the front line, so they moved him into a more defensive spot. But he was still the entry that died first in that previous round, lost on that key tool, so a little bit better droning here. Taking things that little bit slower in the early round may pay dividends for TSM. It was a bit of an offsite though. Now we're into everyone's known, tried, true and tested site of Aviator Games.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that entry kill probably, or entry death rather, from a TSM perspective probably comes down to just not knowing that Fantasy was there. Otherwise, you're not really going to approach the door, you know, with such gusto. You're going to probably just take it a little bit more cautiously. But I'm sure that TSM will, you know, they'll wake up, they'll pick that up, they'll be getting in there with the drones and just making sure they're aware of where everybody is. Fantasy this time is going to kick himself off on the north side.
Not a jump out.
Not a jump out, surely not.
My.
Fantasy goes for it. He has a little look. There's nothing to be found. Back in he goes. But what it does, Des, is it puts it into the brains of TSM. Right, we're going to be absolutely fighting for our lives from minute one here.
What's the fear of God and more? The fear of Furia, you might call it. Fear of Fantasy, but Bolo was there, rare. Stepping back over previously trodden ground. Fantasy had just walked across that area, and TSM would have had an idea that that's where he's retreated. It's almost the same as if Fantasy hadn't ran away, if he just kind of hovered in Astro. Rare's kind of gone on and done the same and paid the price for it there. Not a great start. Still a 5 versus 4, though.
Lots of work for TSM to do, but a great start to round number 2. Bolo able to get that one. Look at the long angle that Fantasy's holding here. Takes a chip of damage off Geo, but is going to be hit hard by Bolo. When does Bolo play as he plays right now? That's his second kill in the round. Going to take Lender down, and that is the Jaeger and the Goyo gone now for Furia. The pressure mounts as Bolo walks in on a triple kill. He's got 2 more to find, and he's on the hunt. He's moving through sight now. The Finker is moving at speed, nearly sees one of those defenders moving back into maps. Bolo really has got a taste of blood in this one.
Got the lingering taste there of the red ping too, to see where those last couple of members were. Both retreated back into Aviator. You've now got Miracle swinging out in towards 90. Worth mentioning, Miracle had a phenomenal day against BDS yesterday. Despite being in a supportive spot, 15 plus kills. He dropped on one of the 2 maps that we saw yesterday. So got to be very mindful of him as the smoke. And also remember, with those smoke canisters in back pocket, they will do extra damage to a juiced up target from the Finker. So Bolo's got to be very careful. And when he pulls out those nanobots, else he could be putting his team into an early grave.
Ice is in an important position here, just playing in behind the Goyo shield that's been set up on maps. He's really preventing the push coming in through that doorway, but TSM, they're in no rush here. Time is on the clock. They're starting to open things up. They've got Geo on the Hibana just working those reinforcements to try and gain a little bit more access into sight. We hear them detonating there. Miracle just trying to hold down into 90 corridor. Bolo manages to find his 4th. Is the 5th there? No! Shut down and denied by Miracle. So close. Achieved. Ultimately able to get the trade and win the round. It's a Bolo 4K, but he can't quite hit the ace.
I think production got a bit excited there that it was an ace rolling through, but not quite to be the case. Sure, he found one back, but Achieve steps in on the sledge and collects the final kill. Much better round out of TSM, a bit more structured, admittedly very built off the back of Bolo, finding 3 kills off-site up towards the north side. Again, maybe leaning in towards a bit that on the previous round, it was a little bit unexpected to start in Dining and Kitchen. It's hardly the starting site that we're very used to seeing. And for some reason, on the side of Furia, they've opted for a very early tactical pause. They've lost 1 round, bearing in mind it's 1-on-1, yet they want this timeout to have a conversation.
It's definitely interesting timing. You know, as you can see there, Twister is, you know, busy in the ears of the players there, just trying to give them some sort of instruction. There's obviously something that he's seen, something that he's maybe not happy with after that round. The first round seemed to go well from them. It was a solid roam. Rare and Fantasy able to pick up kills off-site and whittle TSM down, but they were just absolutely dismantled Furia in round number 2 by Bolo. There's no other way to put it. Worked his way in through Astro and picked himself up 4 as he went, and it really did hit them hard. Now, I'm not sure, as I say, you know, what particularly they feel that they need to change after that point. A player like Bolo is sometimes going to come in and get a 4K. It's going to happen. There's not always something that you can do about it, but FURIA obviously feel that there's something to change.
The only reason I can feel you have a timeout this early is a communication issue. Something that you've come into the game, maybe the players, and I've heard this from a few coaches, you know, you'll call a timeout if players are arguing or if there's a disagreement that a coach needs to weigh in on, or if there is a very obvious error that wasn't caught, they will call early times out. But truthfully, Ace, I would rather teams do call early times out.
Oh yeah,
and
nothing wrong with it.
Get things fixed nice and early so they carry on through the rest of the rounds rather than waiting until you're down 6-1 and then call a timeout. It's a little bit late then because the amends will probably last for a round or two and then things can swing back quite quickly. Anyway, we go down into another very unique site, Living and Library. We don't get to see all that often. Now, TSM, when I watched back one of their games from probably, not recently by the way, about 18 months ago when they played on this map, they were one of the teams that did run around on this map and they opened up rotations everywhere on the ground floor so they could play into Piano, they could run around up into towards North Side, towards Dining, for example. It was just really interesting to see how open they played it. I doubt FURIA go quite for the same, and instead they're looking for a bit of a vertical hold. We saw this coming out of some teams in Europe where you'll open up holes in the floor of Vault and you can see down in towards the north side of the site itself and deny attackers from getting in and planting, to which we saw some very clever innovations making use of an Amaru. No Amaru on site, you'll be glad to know, so nothing too crazy coming in this round, but we'll keep an eye on where FURIA get their setups in and what angles they look to contest.
Going to be important, as always, for a ground floor site on Villa for TSM to come in and get that top floor control. As you say, we can see the verticals that have been opened up. We've got Fantasy inside of games at the minute. He's going to hold on to that for as long as possible. I'm sure he's got his castle barricades up. He's got his holes in the floor. He's doing everything he can, as you said, there's getting those angles down towards the north side. We don't see Library very often, Living Room Library as a site. If you're wondering, you know, where's my verticals for it? Where am I looking? On a ranked level, it's dead easy to remember Villa. It's basically the top 4 sites. So Trophy Statuary, that's your verticals down into Kitchen and Dining. Games, 90 Corridor, your other top floor site is down into Living Room Library. It's pretty much as simple as that, and that's why we've got FURIA trying to hold on to this area, particularly Study. That's really interesting, very open into Study there, just making it very difficult for TSM to get established, and they're certainly taking their time. They're being cautious here.
It's well set where they've got 2 or 3 angles being contested on towards the south side, so they've acknowledged that Vault is quite a critical part of this defense for them. And in order to hold that down, you need to have control of games. You've got to stop them getting into Study, or if they do, you've got to at least contest them. And Fantasy here is just helping them lock it down, not putting his attention on site right now, as they're aware. There are 2, 3, if not 4 members of TSM all piling in their focus right now on this top floor.
They are dicing with death, and death finds them as Fantasy and Lender shut down. Miracle manages to find Bolo from underneath with a Nitro, and that was well timed for FURIA because otherwise they were staring down the barrel of a 5 versus 3. We've still got Highs up on the top floor though, and I'm not sure that TSM are aware of his location here. He's inside of games, and he's potentially going to make a nuisance of himself. Merc pushes through, double kill on the round now. I'm just interested in exactly what the Aruni can do here inside of the level, because not being challenged as of yet, nobody holding that angle, looking at the verticals. It's going to be a freebie, Des. Absolutely. Gets his kill. There you go. Goes to the pistol. 3 versus 2. Now, TSM are aware of Heiser's location. They're going to have to try and track him down and get the kill. Can Heis take any more with him?
Apparently, no is the answer. Merc goes on to a triple in the round. Could be a quad if you go by the kill feeders. I think he finished off a kill coming in from someone else on the top floor. I think it might have been Charla. Either way, he's in a 1 versus 3. He can make good use of these verticals, but it's quite restricted in the angle you get. It's more for denying entry into the site than the actual site itself. And given TSM have already got full control, well, it's not all that useful to him. Had to rotate down in towards red. Going to punch a hole in this wall now and see what he can find. Tries to go for a spray, but no one to be found. This should get completed now as it is behind a thick pillar which cannot be shot through. That plant will go down for TSM, and Highs has got it all to do in a 1 versus 3.
Gio doing a great job of getting that diffuser down as always when the opportunity was presented. Highs manages to take a chip of damage off Merc, but ultimately Merc, he fires back, he bites back hard, and he gets that kill. And that's going to be TSM now going 2-1 and looking pretty cool on the attack of Villa.
4K for Merc as well. Wow. One way to make up for you losing the Ying early in round 1. And as I said, if you go by the scoreboard, if you go by the kill feed, that was essentially an ace coming out for Merc. He did complete a kill coming in from one of his teammates, so a big round. And the one thing that makes me slightly nervous about this, Tim, is you know what I'm like about hero plays. I love them. They're super exciting to watch. One player just going absolutely nuclear inside the server. But the last 2 rounds that have been won by TSM have come off Bolo finding himself a 4K and Merc finding a 4K. That ain't going to happen every single round.
Well, you don't think it should do?
Are you really telling me Fantasy is not going to put a stop to one of those 2 players?
We would expect him to, but he does have these quiet games every now and again. I don't think this is necessarily going to be one of them, but in the last couple of rounds, it's been difficult for him. He got that entry kill to begin with. You know, let's not forget, his 1 kill is the very first kill of round 1 that we've seen. Nothing else since, and FURIA really need at this point for him to start getting himself running because they're struggling to find a site that they can hold down. They could, at this point, go back to dining and kitchen, but they've chosen not to. They're going to come back up to the top floor. Aviator games it will be. It's the round that we saw them lose in round 2, and it was the round that Bolo walked in and got himself a 4K from the north side. They had a tactical timeout on the back of it. It was that devastating. So we'll see what FURIA can do here to mix things up. How do they deal with that? It's not that they really did anything wrong. It's the answer is get the kill onto Bolo, but it ain't that simple.
I hate that we're just seeing LMG, LMG, LMG. It's just a nuisance. Bolo and Mert both rocking him in the round. Spraying through soft walls, spraying through doorways, just essentially suppressing fire onto a doorway can be a nightmare in itself. You don't give too many opportunities for anyone else to lean in and take a shot back. But between the 2 of them, again, looking in towards the range explosives here. 4 frag grenades on side. You've got the 2 impacts coming out of the Zofia. Plenty of utility for them to chew through, and plenty for Highs to get to work on. Merc, again, the first one to go down. This time it's Highs finding him out.
Good start from FURIA, able to get that opening kill this time. They've certainly played better when they have had that opener and then been able to weigh on the pressure from behind it. The droning is continuing for TSM at the minute. And Fantasy, he's going to hold down the angle on that north side. That was where all the push came from last time from TSM, and it looks like it's going to be the same this time. Chalet and Bolo have got themselves in. Bolo once again moving through Astro. That was the kill that FURIA needed. They didn't get it last time, but this time Bolo shut down on the reverse angle by Fantasy, and that is what FURIA needed. 5 versus 3 now, nice advantage. They can start to just collapse back there. They don't need to over-peak this. They don't need to over-aggress it. They can just now wait for TSM to play into them.
They're just getting a little bit keen ahead of the drones here. I think Merc and Bolo being caught out there really shouldn't be happening. You know, they had 2 on drones. It was Charla and Gio running around on drone just in front of Bolo. Didn't give him time to drone out 90 and spot that Fantasy was there looking to cause some bother. And ultimately, he's then stepped out on the reverse angle, as you said, and get the shutdown. A little more patience would not go amiss, because now they're into a 3 versus 5, and as of yet to really find a response back onto a single member of FURIA.
Az is going to hold down this map story. He'll use the Goyo shield to his advantage now. As I said, absolutely no reason to peak this whatsoever. A minute left on the clock, and TSM, first and foremost, need to find themselves a kill or 2. There's absolutely no hope of them getting into this site without doing so achieved. He's going to find a freebie with a nade onto Lender. Going to take him down in Vault. That's an absolute beauty. Fantasy moving around, just cautious of the potential for anybody moving into study, but Rare, he's got the corridor locked down, so Fantasy shouldn't need to worry about that overly much, I wouldn't have thought. I think he's just covering him for anybody pushing in from the door. They want that crossfire, they want that double sort of whammy as they both try to challenge at the same time. Now TSM, with 20 seconds left to go, they need to get themselves inside of the building.
They do, and they still can't walk through because there's still smoke canisters being deployed. Fantasy finds yet another. This one out through Vault by the looks of it, as Gio's going to be the next to step in. Fantasy is there and waiting into a 3K. Rare gets the shutdown. It's becoming hero play after hero play after hero play in this game, Tim.
And I am here or for it, Des.
It's terrible.
Just like that one settle.
Just don't.
Give it a second.
Just stop.
Okay, everybody's enjoyed it. We can move on. Yeah. Round 5, we're going to be heading into FURIA now, leveling things up. Trophy Statuary. It's going to be the first time that we've seen Trophy Statuary. There's FURIA now deciding, obviously, that top floor is where their wins are going to come from, so they're going to try to lock that down. From what we've seen from TSM so far, I would expect some side-sided pressure moving across. They've very much been a team that have been moving into the map, wanting to get boots on the ground before they start pushing towards the objective. objective, rather than, for example, Aviator Games just coming directly in through study balcony and trying to aggress directly onto site. They've wanted to get some map control. They want to give themselves some space to play into, you know, some map to use to find those angles. So I'd expect that we're going to see some attention paid towards Aviator Games. Again, they're going to move in through study, get a few in there. There will also be a force pushed into Mastra, I would expect. That two-prong attack, it can be pretty deadly.
It can be. The Pints can really, assuming you get to that point, the Pints can really shut down those looking to return back to site, right? Forced out by one direction into a bear trap on the other side, and yoink, you're taking yourself some free kills. But that relies heavily on the drone work coming out of TSM. And the interesting change coming in from FURIA is to put Rare on the Mozzie. So with something like a mute, obviously you're quite static. You'll put them down around the site normally to deny droning of what's actually happening inside of the sites themselves. With a Mozzie, you're able to get out in the map and start putting them on windows or doorways that get you inside the building. That slows down TSM's initial entry into the building, their initial fact-finding. Not only that, of course, but gives information over to FURIA to make use of as well, which to me is only going to make them all the more deadly and TSM potentially all the more easy to trip up given how that last round played out.
Interestingly, FURIA obviously expected a bit of a south side push as well. TSM paid some early attention, just shooting out a couple of the barricades, just making it a lot of noise over that side. But as you can see, Fantasy and Rare, they've pretty much decided, nope, there's nobody coming over here. We're 30 seconds in and the study balcony door is still intact. We're not going to see pressure from here. So it's all switched over to that north side, and it looks like TSM are going to go purely for Astro Bathroom Master and try to work down from there.
Cheeky angle from Miracle, was hoping someone might run into Pantry underneath, but they haven't. Oh, they did, sorry, but they've ran past his line of sight and he can't go much further and step into an alternative angle because there are people on the windows watching him. Chalet from below will be able to get an air jab down onto this window to stop any more pushes coming out through that direction. So, Master Bedroom is looking a bit more secure. That gives TSM a base to start working from once they push inside there, but it ain't going to stop Highs doing what Highs does best and shutting down Merc. He's now 0 for 3 on entry. It's not looking great.
As on the other hand is 2 for 0 and going very, very well. He's just giving FURIA those advantages in the last couple of rounds. He needs his team now to power on. Going to see the nade just taken out by the ADS. That's going to allow Lender to stay in position for a little bit longer, play behind that deployable shield, which ultimately will be cleared out by the Gun 6. He's going to keep challenging that doorway, but just a little bit softer now. He's not going to be leaving himself sort of exposed for too long. He may well push back through the rotation soon, but he's not going to want to give up Astro too easily, because once you get Astro control, you've got that direct push into site. Pressure through the soft wall can be a bit of a nightmare to hold them off.
It can be difficult. You can see for TSM, they've got this control of the bathroom and of Master Bedroom. That's what you want to get started with. We enter that last 60 seconds and the focus is going to be getting this triple wall opened up, which Geo is focusing on, but there is Fantasy here with a single impact in pocket. It didn't achieve what was desired, which was to stop these being opened up. They get it through. A nade coming in from Achieve. That's 2 kills now across a couple of rounds for him with grenades on the sledge, doing the work that we all know and love. A smoke comes out to the door.
No!
But it's Fantasy going nuclear into the bathroom. He's worked through the own rotate they've opened up and shut down 2. Finally killed off by Achieved, but that's a big amount of damage done there, Tim. It's a 2 versus 3.
That is a big slip up from TSM. They have given Fantasy the means, the method to be their downfall, getting into bathroom and just taking them apart, but Achieved, he's fighting back. Finds Lender, 2v2, 10 seconds left to go. Chalet has Diffuser. It's all about getting in and having that plant attempt now. Rare, he sees the man cut across in front of him, shut down by Achieved on the quad. This could be an ace as Miracle pushes forward. Achieved is on the cover. Chalet just around the corner. Miracle finds him. It's 1v1, Des. It's ace versus Miracle here as Achieved gets the ace if he finds this kill. He's running away. He's just trying to find himself a better angle here that Miracle can play into. Achieved finishes it off and single-handedly grabs a round that really could have gone the other way there. He just manages to avoid catastrophe from that Fantasy push.
That was unbelievable that it comes down to it. I almost feel like a broken record again on the whole like hero plays point, but that's a 5k in this round, a 3k from Fantasy the one before, Merc a 4k before that, and Bolo a 4k before that. If you want to see some of the best in the world and what they can achieve, then my God, God, are you tuned into the right game right now? 3-2 to TSM. And crucially, Tim, that's 3 rounds of attack on Villa. It sounds like the go-to easy thing to say, which is exactly why I'm going to say it. But generally, Villa is considered quite defender-leaning. You would expect for FURIA to be walking away with at least 3, if not 4 rounds. So they'll be looking for a critical round win here as we go into Dining and Kitchen, where the whole adventure started with a pretty comfortable win from FURIA themselves.
I mean, we've got to be honest, TSM got away with a bit of a slip up there. You know, allowing Fantasy through that rotate in the way that he was able to do it and just catch it. I mean, he must have thought his birthday had come early when he walked into bathroom and there's 2 of them on drones in the shower. It's like, they're the freest double he's ever going to get in his life. It was really well played from him, but TSM weren't rocked by it. That's what I like. They showed some good resolve there and achieved. He just took over the round and just really took responsibility for it, went in, got his kills on the cover, just saw the round out. Great individual effort from him, but as you say, Des, we can't keep relying both sides on these hero play. We don't think
apparently we can.
If you and I have to cast 4Ks and aces every single round from now till the end, there's not going to be much left of us, Des.
When you said it was ace against highs, was it?
Yeah.
Normally when I was like, oh, is it really? You're no longer a caster, mate. You're a player now.
Oh, no, it was the focus on this is the ace or he's going to get it lost.
No, take the credit, mate. It was you. That was all you channeling in to achieve there.
I ain't doing that.
I don't know, mate. I heard you killed some pro players once upon a time.
It's not a big thing. I don't like to talk about it.
Wave throwback to meme fight of 2021. What a time. Let's see then how the last round of the half goes. Again, we are focusing up on the down and the downstairs. Dining and Kitchen going to be our focus for TSM. It's going to be all about this vertical control. 4 of them spawning on the northeast side. A couple of times they've been stung out by these roamers. We've mentioned about Fantasy. We've mentioned about Rare.
Oh, Fantasy.
Really good droning coming in and not being willing to overpeak into these fights against the boys of FURIA feels like a bit of a smart play.
It does, you know, like you say, this early hitting the shots at the minute achieved. He gets away with just running across, exposes a couple of pixels of himself, and he just gets away with it now. Rare just trying to hold down the Master side. Basically, they know that they're going to want that control over Master, and FURIA have got the utility up there. They're really trying to hold on to it. TSM are moving in, but as you say, they're doing it cautiously. They've got a lot of work to do. How many times are these two just going to cross over each other? Achieve now down to nearly half health. Fantasy takes a few bullets of damage as well, but they both remain in place for the time being.
It's all about these verticals. Achieves the man to play on them. He's done so much work with nades throughout these last few rounds. He has none left, but can do a lot towards them in terms of getting verticals opened up for them to make good use of. Let's see how things step forward as Rare still lurking around on the top floor here. Doesn't feel he can directly aggress straight over yet in towards the bedroom, but he's still going to be here to remind TSM that no, you cannot ignore me and I will be a headache if you don't shut me down, narrowly escaping death from Merc.
Absolute fractions in that one. Rare recognising when it was time to go. I think Merc might just find himself a freebie. He gets Fantasy on the Goyo, but shut down on a trade as Lender there to finish him off in Memorial. Sees the man on the window, but shut down, and these are just becoming an absolute bloodbath here, round after round. Achieved and they managed to find 2 and give TSM a serious advantage here, 4-2, and they could be going 4-2 on the half, Des. This is looking good right now for the North American team, but Rare, he hasn't been dealt with, he hasn't been pinned down, he's able to rotate back up the stairs and get himself another 6 shots onto Charla as well. Miracle onto Bolo. Des, these rounds are all over the place. Geo reacts fastest in that quick draw, taking down Rare. It's all up to Miracle on site. Does he know that the man's going for the plant ahead of him? He finds Charla. Can he find the second? The info's there. Oh! The shotgun comes out. What a switch from Miracle to take the 1-2 and to finish off the round, leveling things up 3-3.
I said earlier on, Miracle dropped 15 plus kills as the support player yesterday in their game against BDS, and that is one hell of a way to end the half in a 1 versus 2 clutch. And that was with Rare as well, being able to somehow get behind TSM. They had Red Corridor covered off, but he manages to swing his way back through, works his way up Red Stairs and gets the kill on the top floor. Pivotal moment, but it all came down to Miracle there with the cool composure of a cucumber in that 1 versus 2. 3-3 at the half. TSM will be happy, and FURIA, counting their lucky stars, they've walked away with at least 3.
I don't think a cucumber could have clutched that, Des.
Probably not, mate.
I'll be honest, I don't think they could have.
Nah, probably not. But cool as a cucumber. Cucumbers generally are pretty cool.
They are very cool. But probably not in a clutch situation, that's all I'm saying.
No. Depends what you define by cool.
You might see him sweating a little bit. But Miracle certainly wasn't. He manages to get the two. The flip onto the shotgun was the key for me.
Oh, yeah.
Knew that he was going into close range, but that takes some nerve because he's going to be challenged. He knows that challenge is potentially coming. It's like taking the reload in that moment. You know, that's your real danger zone because you don't have a method for a couple of seconds of protecting yourself. But it was just absolutely perfect. And Gio was a little bit unfortunate. He sort of went one way, he went the other. It was just never the right way.
But a bait and switch.
It was exactly that. And FURIA, they come away 3-3 on the half. And what a game we've got.
Indeed. Here we go into the second half then. TSM starting things off on a more traditional site rather than dining in kitchen as we saw back in the first half. It's going to be up on the top floor, trophy and statuary to get things underway. And for a while, this site wasn't very popular. I believe it was in LATAM, it was a thing actually, where the often plan would be you start in ABG, go down to dining and kitchen, and even look at library. However, regardless of site, it's Bolo starting off with a great first kill onto Miracle. The hero of the moment is a hero no more taken out of this round.
That's it. I love that these big hero plays, these big moments, they're all so short-lived, because somebody else comes in wanting their piece of the pie. And this time Bolo's thinking, right, it's back to me, it's my turn, and I'm going to have some action. He's got himself into the bathroom looking. He knows that there's one ahead of him, does he? No, he just dips away from the fight there. He's underneath, just trying to cause a nuisance of himself because we've seen how great those vertical nades are at the minute. FURIA wanting to get in underneath with the sledge, see if they can find any of those free vertical explosive kills, and they seem to have pushed Bolo away now, so the lower floor may be theirs. They can get themselves into dining kitchen, try to sort of soften up sight a little bit, get underneath them, and TSM, they're just going to be holding down their angles and keeping hold of the south side for now.
Far from fancy. It was almost a great play as well, nading inside of this room so that Achieve wasn't forced to step away from the angle and then pushes into study, but ultimately forced away as Achieve gets the kill. Lender's had to peel back. You got Rare and Highs pushing their way up main, and Charlotte waits for them at the top end of 90. It's not looking too pretty. They've got Gio, Achieved, and Charlotte all boxing them in, and Merc sat a bit further back for support. So like a liquid, TSM are just moving around this attack from FURIA and getting ready to deal with the pressure.
Gio just holding a tight angle here again. I'm not sure whether FURIA are aware of his presence or not. Only 3 drones remaining, Des, and that might not be enough for them to have a completely clear picture of what's going on ahead. TSM doing a great job of shutting down that information game. Highs makes the high challenge, but the bullets come in low and find his feet taking damage. Rare manages to find Gio, and that allows Highs now to move on. It frees him up to start pressuring towards that 90 corridor elbow and potentially in towards site. 50 seconds left to go, and a lot of work for FURIA to do here.
I like at least that TSM have had the composure to now draw back to site light. Okay, cool, we've got a couple. We've lost one. We'll leave Gio alone in bar. They knew he wasn't getting out of there safely, so his whole goal was waste as much time as he can and let the others get back to site. Charla did chuck out a smoke to make sure they weren't about to get rushed off the back of it whilst they were setting back up on site again. And out comes the second one, this time trying to deny away Highs, who's looking for a way in towards the site. Final 25 seconds, and this is where the pressure will really start to mount.
Still one Toxic Babe canister left to go. We hear that detonated. That's going to burn to about 10 seconds, and FURIA need to find an alternative method of getting inside a site. Highs has gone. He knows there's one concrete, but he can't make the challenge. It's from every direction. He runs out of bullets. Merc finds the kill. TSM just collapsing at the right moment there and taking their first defensive trophy statuary.
It's a bit weird as well. The smoke grenade itself actually came out in the site there rather than the smoke canister. He still had one in back pocket, but ultimately not really helping them achieve, well, anything. We've now got a tactical pause coming in from TSM. So in this case, you know, they're in a spot where they're arguably in the lead right now, right? It's 4-3, but both teams, after a round win, early in their defensive halves, have taken these tactical pauses. So whatever the reason might be, again, a communication thing, some ideas they want to work on and make sure they've definitely got the right strats in mind. Whatever it is, they are doing so from a commanding position. To be 4-3 up on Villa and you're still in your defensive half, not a bad spot if you ask me, Tim.
Not at all. I think, you know, FURIA there took a long time and never really felt like they were in control of the map. They sort of tried to push underneath. Bolo got himself a kill. They never really used that verticality, never got the nades in underneath. They then tried to push up top, clear out Aviator Games. They eventually did it, getting the kill on Gio, but still, it was a heavy toll in terms of time, in terms of manpower as well. And it just never really clicked for FURIA in that round. TSM had their number. Everywhere they tried to push, you commented on it yourself, the play towards Achieved, moving him out like that was great, but Merc was on the cover, and TSM just sort of were one step ahead there. It was well played.
It's one of those where I feel both teams are making good strategical decisions, but the in-the-moment gunfights is what's then changing the outcome of the round beyond that point, which is what you want from a game of Siege, right? You want both teams to be very evenly matched on strategy and arguably on gun skill. Right now, TSM are just hitting those big shots that they need to be. Again, 3 huge hero rounds from them in the first half has got them to this point as we go into, once again, the bread and butter site of this map. Aviator Games stepping down from Trophy and Statuary. Let's see how TSM focus up when they've got to face off against a Monty.
That's it, it's going to be Lender bringing the Monty, not unusual for him. They're going to try to, no doubt, push in from that north side behind that big shield. He's going to work his way through, he's going to feed information, and basically what he's there to do is to bully those roamers away. We call them roamers, it's sort of a semi-roam, it's an extension. He's there to bully them away from it.
We were talking with Nick yesterday. Nick's Pengu, by the way, just cool.
I mean, you know,
it's not a big deal.
We know top casters.
It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Not at all. 2-time world champion. But he was saying anyway about the Shield players. Either teams have that as a very key strategy, or they'll bring it out when things aren't going according to plan. When you just need someone to hold the front line and be like, yo, I am the front line, play behind me. It gives the team a little bit of direction, and like you say, helps to bully these roamers back rather than getting sniped off a pixel angle from somewhere halfway across the map. To me, this kind of reads as a little bit of panic on FURIA's side, or less so panic, but more nerves of being like, okay, TSM are now in the lead. They're on the defensive side. We need to do something different here that's going to give us a bit more control, and their answer is the Monty.
I think it's a bit of recognition that nothing that we tried last time really worked. Yep. We probed the defences, you know, we tried to ingress there, wasn't happening. We tried to push through study, wasn't happening. We need to be able to move these TSM players, and so as you say, just going to shield. And I like it from FURIA. It's something that they do, Des. They're decisive. They'll take the action, like you say, not leaving it until it's 6-4. You know, not leaving it until it's 6-3 to make those decisions and have that Hail Mary play. You know, they'll actually do it earlier on. Let's try and win a couple of rounds now. Let's keep in touch. You know, they don't want to give an inch to TSM here, and we can see Lender. He's just going to be used to try and bully out the main stairs rather than pushing from the north side. The utility starts to rein in. Lender just taking that attention like a magnet from the Jaeger there, and you can see all the utility being cleared away from him.
Fancy footwork being shown by Bolo as well. Dodges away from the nade that comes in to clear the shield, and then immediately steps back into position, waiting for someone just to peek their head around the corner of the shield and try and take him out. More nades are coming in, but FURIA have dumped pretty much all of their utility onto these stairs and are now been forced back, and they still find the opener. It's Miracle going down on the Nomad, 2 achieved on the other side, and the Mutes. A beautiful start, and they still have the C4 in back pocket ready for when this push comes in. As it stands, FURIA are stuck on the downstairs. They've lost a second. Bolo, my God, get him on Dancing on Ice, because this guy is looking clean.
Absolutely brilliant play on the main stairs to hold FURIA up there, and Achieved able to take full advantage of that. Fantasy Miracle both down now, 5 versus 3. Lender doing what he can to try and gain some ground. He's pushed himself inside a study, just being careful about his positioning. He's going to have a little look at site here and see what he can find out. But the problem that he's going to have is that there's nobody really pushing with him. He's fairly solo at the minute. They are on that side of the map. Heiser's now moved into study, so he can start reacting to a little bit of that information that might be fed in, but TSM are just playing this super cautiously, Des. They're not exposing themselves. They know they don't need to.
Oh, Merc.
Surely they don't get in and get This is going to be an absolute robbery if they get the plant down. No, Merc, he manages to find himself 2. Geo finishes it off. I had a little bit of a worry for TSM there when the smoke went down. It was one of those where you could sort of see it coming, but Merc was having absolutely none of it. Closes out the round. TSM looking pretty comfortable.
Very. Merc was just sat inside of the doorway there leading up to landing. So when the smoke came in and landed directly on his feet, he was like, I ain't going to move. I'm going to stay here and wait for this to run out. And as soon as he hears the push coming in, because Monty is a big boy, you're going to hear him charging through the site with that shield in front of his face. He steps through the smoke, finds 2 who weren't even aware of his presence, and it's an easy closeout from there. It feels for FURIA a little bit one-dimensional on these attacks, where they're trying one thing and really brute forcing to make it work. Because compare it back to TSM in the first half. They would pause once they got inside the building and get back on drones to spot where people were before they started looking for the play. Clearly there, there, no one had droned out from landing or from study, that Merc was sat in the doorway, and it ultimately ends the round for them. It's a flawless round, and TSM are flying on the defensive half of Villa. 2 more rounds and they close out map number 1.
Certainly are cruising now, and FURIA just struggling on the attack. We're yet to see them sort of gain any ground or success. They're going to be now attacking onto living room and library. We'll see how TSM hold on to that. They don't have a castle, so we're going to see quite a different setup to what FURIA bought. FURIA really did sort of double down on this top floor. The castle barricaded off. They tried to prevent access to it. They had the vertical holes, and I'm sure that TSM are going to do the same in their own way, but it's going to be more of a sort of a direct hold rather than trying to slow down with utility like a castle barricade. They're going to have guns in there.
Yeah, you just sit there and be willing to challenge through the soft wall that they've kept up next to the reinforced one. Little cheeky hole in there, stops you being sprayed from the study doorway up in towards vault, so a player can play there quite comfortably. And I know the castle was, you know, you can't argue that it's useless, but I would argue you don't need it for this site. You can just reinforce off critical walls. You can hold the angles, as we had a couple of players from FURIA doing inside of gaming the last time around they were defending this site. So make of it what you will. And just like I mentioned about that kind of 18 months ago thing, there are a couple of rotation holes being opened up from TSM here. The focus is inside of the vault, but up on the north side at least, down towards the south side of things, there are some holes looking out of sight to make sure red hallway can still be controlled. It's a good and really well spread defense.
Twitch drone just moving through, taking out some of the default cams, of course any other utility that it comes across, but for the time being, FURIA, they're just trying to gain that information, exactly where is the TSM hole, but there's a very big possibility that they won't draw Merc out. It takes a lot of time to get them down into the basement there and to just find that there might or might not be somebody there. Fantasy will find Bolo, talking of finding, and he's going to get himself an Oprah, and that's the first round in a few that FURIA have actually done that.
They've got to try and find him now. And if they can catch him out, I mean, it's Merc who was lurking in the basement, right? He's now he's worked his way up in towards dining and kitchen. And he's just waiting to see someone step around, come down 90. He's got the right idea, because Lender isn't too far away. And the right call being made by him. Let's get some drones in. The sheer fact that he's been flashed suggests to me they have a good inclination that he's in the area. They've checked the basement. They now see him inside a kitchen. No one's going to step out and swing him, but he is going to reposition.
Merc just throwing out the impact nade there. Just, I don't know whether it was back somebody off, open up a rotation angle, what he was planning to do. But Lender, he's going to deploy the smoke canister, allow him to move past those doors and maybe put a bit of pressure directly onto site here after blocking that sight line. But Miracle cut down by Geo. Achieve finds Lender, Fantasy down, and it all falls apart in seconds for FURIA here as TSM show once again why they are such a great Villa team, just putting them down one at a time. Highs manages to get something back for the Brazilians, taking out Achieved on the top floor, but look at his health, it's barely anything left, and they've still got Chalet up there who they haven't cleared out.
Wrong door, Chalet is coming behind, he did turn around but couldn't land the shots. Highs bringing it back down to a 2 versus 2. Rare is alone though, he's quite spread out from his teammate at this point. He's got Merc on red and Geo's playing inside a library, one on either side, and still have smoke canisters to play behind here. A final 25 seconds, knocked away by the air jab, and here comes Merc trying to push in, but he's sprinting down the corridor and Rare gets the kill. They've brought it down from a 4 versus 2 to a 2 versus 1, but the clock is not on their side, Tim.
Rare has got to get this diffuser down. 10 seconds left to go. He's going to need to extend that time. Geo's waiting with the shotgun. Does not find one as high as has the angle, has the shot, and takes it. And that's going to be FURIA finding their first attack and bringing themselves back in touch with TSM. It's 5-4.
They'll be kicking themselves about that round. Imagine being in a 4 versus 2 and it ends 0-2. It's not the dream outcome you're looking for, but all of it on the back of Highs, a big 3K in the round itself. I really thought Chalet might find the one shot required, because those last 2 gunfights, he was on a slither of HP. A bullet from any gun at any distance would have been enough to put him in the dirt and at least swing the round into a 1 versus 1 between Rare and whoever remained on at the other side. A good round from FURIA and showing there is still life in this LATAM side.
FURIA once again just bringing those sort of off-brand picks. We've got the Knock and the Jackal coming along this time. Just really doing things in different ways. That's what I like to see. Never repetitive, always willing to try and catch those defenders off guard.
No, I like we've seen all 4 sites from TSM so far. They have rotated through all 4 sites on this map, and being able to play all 4 is a nice advantage. You've then always at least got a choice. Yeah, you've always got a choice of being able to play 2, so it's a good option to have on side. Looking at this lineup coming out of TSM though, Frostmats, bit cheesy. The cap can, a little bit cheesy. You can stack those on doors now, of course. Double stack in case you haven't watched the game for a while. You've got Pulse to feed the information back and forth. You've got a couple of C4s on side. They could get quite cheeky here. I think you got to find Fantasy and Co. watching their step, else they may find themselves getting snagged out by TSM without even seeing them in the first place.
Chief just getting himself on the cams there, see if he can see where people have spawned in or not. He's wanting to play inside a living room library for the time being. It's going to be attention towards both floors at the same time for the looks of it from FURIA. They've got a couple of players heading upstairs, and Lender's already getting on the jackal tracks, just trying to make life difficult for those top floor roamers.
Two of them are up there as well. I think for the guys, they can take the time here as well, focus on getting them cleared out. Do you want to be using the vertical destruction to open things up? They've got the shotgun of the Jackal. They've likely got the, in fact, no breaching rounds on the Nomad this time around. It is going to be the flashes, but they've got the sledge, for example. My eyes are most focused, admittedly, on Fantasy in this round. Whenever I see a Nook, you know the intent is going to be somewhere for them to get a little bit cheeky and sneaky, rather than looking towards, say, a Finker that most teams would run if you just want nades and a great gun. She's fully cracked up with it and has got a great team gadget. Nook being a bit like Vigil in that many would describe it as quite a selfish operator. You know, you're playing for yourself, your gadget doesn't bring much for the team, it's for you to make a big play or be off by yourself doing your own thing. So keep a close eye on him and where he's playing, because his impact throughout the round could be really well felt if he gets in through a good angle. Pulse being kind of a direct counter though.
Fantasy on the knock, just pushing forwards toward Master, knows that there's operators in that direction that need to be cleared out. The vertical is not only for the attackers to be able to pressure site, they need to clear them out, because otherwise, guess what? The defenders will do exactly the same thing. When they try to go in and get that plant down, they're going to have bullets and utility raining down upon them. So it's important that they find those top floor kills. It looks like they're doing a steady job of forcing them out of there. We've still got two TSM players. The Capcan is going to be taken out. That's Bolo off the board. Fantasy on the knock, able to get in there and get him taken down. Gio, he decides it's time to leave. He's going to head back downstairs all the way to the basement, in fact, and I could see him popping up somewhere unexpected.
Absolutely. I mean, it's 1-for-1 at this point, a 4 versus 4 and about 50 seconds to play. The team has kind of all moved up from playing all scattered around the map to being condensed up towards this north side. Highs we've now got on the upstairs looking to open some things up. There's no one to meet him, but there is Mert below with a C4 in hand, so he's got to be very careful of that one. Sorry, not a C4 in hand, but more the info to feed across to Charla, who rips it out, pulls it, tries to go for the kill. Don't think he's going to find him. Yes, he does. Charla just steps back into the angle and gets himself shut down. Fantasy had the jump on Mert, but lost out, didn't connect the shots, and Mert whips around with the UMP and gets the shutdown. Traded out by, well, almost traded out a couple of seconds later, but Miracle gets shut down by Charla. It's a 1 versus 3 for Lender. He's got to get a 4K to close it out here, Tim.
14 seconds left to go, and he's got a lot on his plate, Des. He's trying to move into the kitchen, but shut down by Gio. That's going to be the round for TSM, and it puts them onto map point here. They had a real command of sight, no matter what happened elsewhere. FURIA were able to push them around a little bit on the top floor after that opener onto Bolo, but TSM just rotated around it, used the basement, got players back to site, and just locked it down. Well played from them, and a nice nitro from Charla as well. Good patience.
Very much so. Yeah, I honestly thought he missed it for a second, because we heard the rip come out, we heard the placement go down, and I was like, if he doesn't pull it now, he'll be a little bit too late, because the player on above, Highs, stepped back onto the concrete, and I thought if he pulls it now, he'll miss it, and the opportunity looked gone. But no, good patience and resolve being shown to not quite be so trigger happy as maybe you'd expect, and does get a pretty critical kill. I think Fantasy missing that kill onto Merc is going to be the real kicker though, because he caught the jump on him. He wasn't even aware of what was going on, simply sidesteps, gets out the UMP because he had the cardiac sensor out at the time, and nets a kill back in the other direction. Unfortunate, but that's what it can come down to sometimes. TSM on match points.
It's going to be trophy statuary where they try to hold things down here. We saw them no, we haven't seen them defend it. Sorry, we did. I've not gone far back enough in my notes. We saw them defend it back in round number 7. It was a TSM win, and FURIA just weren't able to gain any real map control. They tried to push underneath. They were beaten back by Bolo. They tried to push up top into Study and Aviator Games. They were beaten back by Achieved and Merc. There was just nowhere that they could go to get themselves established. It might be better for FURIA this time to cut that game out and just try getting themselves into Master, Bathroom, Astro, and just try that corner push.
Ran out of steam is how I described them last time. Once they lost the initial 2 kills, it was just like, meh. There's not much more we can achieve here. We've given our best shot for this round and we are done and dusted. This round, they're going hard though. They've got the DKB, they've got the Jackal. They want those roamers shut down. They've clocked there are a lot of them. There were 2 upstairs in the previous round. And sure enough, the phone calls are coming out pretty quickly from Miracle. I won't lie, like I see this kind of stuff and I'm always like, are you calling a little bit too early here? I think it's more to catch anyone that might be hiding in a corner early on as you're running up to the building, just starting to get yourself some form of control on the top floor. But that does mean you've now only got the 1 left for a little bit later into the round. Not forgetting there are mute jammers scattered around which do help TSM. You run over a jammer's area, it will turn the phone off for you and jam the phone call. So one to look for, but Achieved is looking for Lender and he finds his target. Lender had a pretty good game yesterday as well, but currently sat at 3 and 10. It's not been his day.
I love how aggressive that start was from TSM there. Achieved actually playing right up in the master bedroom on that shield on the bed and just gets himself a beautiful little pixel peek onto the window and really does start leading by example for TSM here. Now FURIA this time have managed to get themselves established in underneath, but Achieved is playing it smart. He's on the area, the concrete bit that isn't destructible from beneath. Fantasy gets Geo, Fantasy gets Merc, but Bolo manages to shut down Fantasy. 2 will be your lot. 3 versus 3 now, only halfway through the round, plenty of time to go, and I think FURIA maybe just need to take a little breather here. I'm going to see, or we're going to hear at least, a goo mine triggered as Miracle tries to move up red stairs, so that's going to give an idea to TSM of exactly where the push is coming from.
This is the thing, right? They've got so many drones still left in back pocket. They haven't got any more phone calls left, and the Jackal being off the board isn't particularly ideal. But they've got the information capability here. 4 drones they can still control actively. Don't rush it. Take your time. You knew Achieve was around Master previously because of the damage he was doing. He's still sat in that position. Bolo and Chalet are now arguably the 2 unknowns for them. So that's where they've got to be careful. And you've got Rare playing below. Holding on to 1 grenade in pocket. I imagine you'll see Highs look to do the same. So they'll want to try and get kills without directly engaging the members of TSM.
I think at the minute, FURIA are just sort of hoping that Achieved is going to step into that big old scope, but it's very unlikely because he doesn't need to move at this point. They need to do something to force TSM to move here. They need to start disrupting them. Rare's got himself underneath. Miracle's going to take the cameras away, see if they can gain any information from that, but he looks to go back towards pushing that same angle onto Achieved, and after the grenade goes off, Charlotte moves out. He's going to be down from underneath. That is the play that they needed to start opening things up, because look at what's happened. TSM are having to move, Des, and there come the kills from FURIA. Absolutely perfect. They needed to find 1, because as soon as they found 1, it took away that triangle that TSM had. You remove 1 corner, and Achieved and Bolo had to react. They had to start moving and trying to find kills, because the pressure was going to come from multiple directions at that point, and it was immediately then that FURIA were ready to take those kills. Great round from them. We're going all the way to 12.
I love it, because again, we've said at that 3v3 mark with a minute 40 left, you've got loads of intel. Slow it down. Don't feel the need to rush. Play from below with those nades. They go on to do all that. They get it down with the nade, even with the smoke canister coming out. They push 2 up through Astronomy to try and play for the 2 or the trade into the 2K. And at the same time, there's someone pushing in from the south side of Trophy to take the fight against Bolo. So enough they were kind of in roughly close proximity to one another, but not enough that it was becoming, like you say, an ability for TSM to take a 2 versus 1. Just really smart play from FURIA, and pulls them at least within touching distance of sending this into overtime. This map is far from done.
It is, you know, you get the feeling that this really could go either way at this point. FURIA able, to be honest, it's something that you and I, casting FURIA at these international tournaments, have seen time and time again. They have got an unreal ability to fight back into games. We saw it in SSG, if you remember, the SSG games in Mexico.
Oh, that coastline game.
Unbelievable games. And FURIA, in honesty, they just don't know when they're beaten. That's the point. They can come up against a team that maybe is outplaying them, outgunning them. Not necessarily the case here with TSM. It's been very close, but FURIA just don't know when they're beaten.
They'll happily keep on fighting all the way to the bitter end. You just reminded me of that Coastline game, and it was kind of the point where I fell in love with Coastline. Because I've never really been the biggest fan of Coastline up to this point, or up until that point. And then suddenly we had like 3 games of Coastline that were just back-to-back bangers, and I was like, you know what? We'll put it on the list. It's not a bad one. Coastline's getting him a Christmas card this year. Let's look towards Merc on the Clash as well, mind you. That could be a big difference maker. We saw it in our series earlier on today between Sandbox and M&M, both teams bringing it out. and not having a massive impact in some of the rounds, but the couple that we did see were huge, especially coming out of the shield player for Sandbox, holding down against 3 frag grenades. I'm keeping a close eye on Merc to see what he can do, because I've mentioned a few times that he has been the opening death for his team. It should be much harder for that to be the case when he's playing on a Clash.
I won't call it a Hail Mary. I don't think it's a Hail Mary play, but it's one of those plays where brought out in the last round, it's just trying to give you that boost to get it over the line. You know, let's see if you can deal with this as well. Beautiful headshot from Gio there, working alongside the shield, but Charlie's taken a lot of damage somewhere in the process.
Just feeding the information back and forth, and that will be enough. Yes, Charlotte is a bit low, so he wants to really be holding on to those 3 smoke canisters here and deploying them when it comes down to it. I touched on the thinker early on about how it increases the damage you take from smoke canisters when they're out in the field. So FURIA have got to be mindful of when they're pulling the trigger on those nanobots and when those smokes are coming out. Rare with a big kill onto Achieved, who's had a great game so far, puts us back at 4 versus 4.
Bolo's just dipping himself back to side, going to play in behind that shield again, looking to lock down. You can just see TSM's defense is getting smaller and smaller here. They're just having to work their way back to site as the FURIA push continues, as the pressure mounts. We've got, I think it's the Maverick underneath of Rare, looking for nades potentially. You're not going to get any joy there, Rare, I don't think. He's going for the vault. Gio has stepped out of there, and it's going to mean that FURIA need to come in and start finding some kills horizontally. Fantasy's on there as well, working with the nades. They really want this freebie, and I tell you what, Des, if they could find Merc, what a pickup that would be.
Oh, that would be the prize, wouldn't it be the crown jewel? They didn't get too far away. A bit of chip damage down, not enough to kill him, of course, or really put him too close to death, but it's still keeping the Clash alive, and as that clock runs down, it becomes the 6th man for TSM. We're down to about 30 seconds. They've got to pick up the pace, Tim.
Clash is going to get just more and more powerful as this goes on. 15 seconds, 10 seconds to go. It becomes impossible to deal with them. Fantasy manages to find Gio, but that is not the problem that they need to solve. Merc is still on his feet, still alive on that Clash, and will be able to deny a plant. Bolo's holding on to main stairs. FURIA just aren't in a position, Des. They've left it too late. Here comes Fantasy pushing up the main stairs. He's using the LMG, but Bolo just manages to keep it down. Bolo gets 2. Charlotte finds 1. It's 2v1. Time is ticking down. Highs cannot do it. He is 1 man short, and the clock comes and claims the victory for TSM.
Beautiful, beautiful. Goes down to 1 left apiece, and the Clash is the last one that he's staring down, knowing he can do nothing about it. I think even if Bolo had died there, it might not have been the end of the world, but the fact that he gets the kill in study was the critical one, even whilst being pressured from main stairs. He ends on 12 kills, as does Merc, with Achieved on 11. On the other side is Highs and Fantasy on 11 kills apiece. What a thrilling game. We've seen so many big moments from so many different individuals in that game.
Coming in, I said this was going to be one of those close games where it was an absolute war. FURIA, I don't think they'll take that too hard. That was TSM's map pick. We know TSM are great on Villa. They've just taken them to 12 and almost won it. It came down to a 1v1 and the clock finishing off that final round. So I think FURIA are going to be pretty confident coming out of that and going into Clubhouse. But TSM, they've got a lot of positivity to take away from that as well. I like what I'm seeing out at TSM.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how Clubhouse plays out, because again, it gives that agency to the roamers to get a little bit troublesome, but also gives a lot of site-based focus. So maybe we'll see less off-site scraps and more things focused on the site itself. Either way, I think this series is far from done. It's not a case of going into the next one and saying, TSM, easy 2-0. FURIA are here to fight, and I think that might have just put the spark up their backside to really get into this series. We'll go to a quick break, and when we come back, Clubhouse awaits.
This game would be completely different. In fact, it might not even exist if the community wasn't there. It's really fed a lot of where we're going, what we're doing, and the stories that we tell.
The great thing about Siege is that it attracts people from cosplay communities, from art communities, and then the gaming community and the competitive community. And the fact that we can all come together and it doesn't really matter, like as long as we talk about Siege.
There's no kind of barrier. Everybody should be allowed to participate, and everybody can grow and get better at art and fall more in love with these characters. It is absolutely important for us to celebrate our artistic community, and it's one of the big reasons why we take the opportunity every SI to dedicate a portion of our celebration to them.
You can go to these events and you sort of see the way people react to your work, and actually to be able to see it in person, it makes you know what you're doing is right and what you're doing, you could improve on. And that is something that I don't ever take for granted, and I am extremely grateful for. It's helped me mature as an artist and as a content creator.
As a person, as an artist, online or offline, I'm more confident to talk about myself. I'm more confident to talk about my art. So it's something that I'm still thankful for the people that I met at the community. We get to meet people from like a completely different continent, and like SI was that opportunity, that one opportunity that we could physically meet and connect with those people.
You go to these events and you find that everybody is from all different walks of life. They speak different languages, are from different countries and cultures, but at the end of the day, we all speak the language of Siege.
As long as you can draw, or as long as you can construct a uniform, you can share kind of your love for Siege. It goes beyond any kind of language barrier that you may have, because everybody kind of shares the same passion together.
I love those little videos we get of all the team. You see Mert there, who's like, oh, he's like ready to kick some backside. I loved it. And that's exactly what he did on Villa. Beautiful vertical play, great nade base play, and now we get to go into Clubhouse.
It's going to be a tough one for FURIA here. As I said that coming in, there's a real possibility of a TSM 2-0. They were looking strong. FURIA fought hard. They took them all the way, and they're always a team that can deliver something. But we've not seen too much TSM on Clubhouse, to be fair, so that kind of makes it difficult to prepare for as well. The
only team they've beat there is the Sonics. Otherwise, they have lost out to Oxygen and another team that I'm already forgetting about, Mirage. That's the one they lost out to. So it hasn't been the best 5 months for them. But just in case you missed Villa or are curious about what the stats look like, here you go. Feast your eyes on this one. +2 on the entry for the side of TSM. I know Merc had a pretty rough time in the first half. 1-3 he was after 4 rounds, and after that kept himself out of harm's way early on and went on to be the MVP for his team, a 1.33 rating.
I mean, you look at it, Fantasy and Rare very close to Merc and Bolo, 24 to 22 kills. It's just that back line really that stepped it up for TSM, particularly with Achieved coming in as that third man, just creating those 11 kills, just a little bit ahead of the equivalents on FURIA, but it's not really a criticism. FURIA very, very close to getting it done, taking it to 12 rounds, and On a different day, maybe they get the win on that one. There was a couple of tough gunfights that could have gone either way, very 50-50. But TSM looking strong so far. They had a lot of good passages of play. They were great on the problem solving, able to, particularly on defense, just pick apart what FURIA were trying to do on attack, just able to single them out and just really stop each and every push that they tried.
Absolutely. I think for coming into Clubhouse, big things on our agenda to watch out for is one for TSM. I'm not saying it's all that they won by, because it absolutely wasn't. There were a lot of great things in their game that they had just a second ago. One is going to be a bit around the clock. I feel both teams ran things down to the wire a few times too many. The other is relying on big individual plays. It's all good when a player can charge through the enemy team and kill 3 or 4 of them. As I've said, nothing wrong with it, but relying on it can be a problem, and it feels like after 3 or 4 rounds of that back on Villa, that doesn't want to be what they're putting all their eggs in that basket of individual players really popping off. Because again, FURIA have had a bit of a break here, they can go away and have a discussion. They did use their tactical timeout after just 2 rounds, after one that they won as well, which was quite interesting, back on Villa. So this has been their time to have a conversation and course correct what they feel has been going wrong on Villa. It's hard to do that in the heat of the moment, so hopefully here we see a more competitive game where hopefully we get through to that 3rd map of Chalet.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see it. You know, as you know, I'm a big supporter of FURIA, I said for the longest time, because they play an exciting brand of Siege. They're fun to watch. They will, like I said, they're not going to leave it to round 12 to try something. You know, halfway through the game, you'll see them bring them on to, all right, let's try a Jackal. They're willing to experiment and to do things a little bit differently, and they've got a couple of sort of high-octane, explosive players as well, particularly Fantasy, that can just turn around. I mean, that play where he moved through the master bedroom wall, just having the nerve to do that. I'm going to use the whole "you've opened up as a rotate and I'm going to just walk into bathroom and get 2 kills." It's just so much fun to watch, but I don't know, I've just got a feeling about TSM today. I feel like they're on their day and they might just stretch their legs a little bit more here on Clubhouse.
It's really interesting when you look back at a number of stats over the last 5 months for a variety of teams. You get stats from like finals, from stage 3, from the Sweden Major. TSM weren't at the major, so they have a much reduced kind of stat line or maps that you can go and look at that involve international play. A lot of their games have just been in those best of ones, so to some degree there's a number of unknowns coming into this competition about them. Everyone would have seen how they performed in the closed qualifiers. My god, did they make it look pretty easy, apart from the second to last game in which it did come down to a matter of a few rounds, but then going into the final they absolutely cleaned out their opponents. Clubhouse is about to get started any second now. I'm excited to get into it, Tim. I want to find out who's starting on the attack and the defense, although truthfully at the moment I don't think it matters a whole ton. It's pretty balanced as a map. It's FURIA starting on the attacking side and TSM will kick things off on the defense.
Going to get into those operator bans then. TSM, as the defenders, will pick our first attacking operator that will be unavailable. FURIA will then do the same, followed by a defender, with TSM rounding out the ban phase with that final defender. It's going to be Thatcher that's gone first, and I would expect to see a Hatch player go next, a Maverick or Hibana.
It probably would go that way. We've seen double hard breach bans coming through on this map. It's going to be the Hibana. I'm sure many of you are very aware by now if you played Siege at all in the last 18 months. But she does now have the ability to, of course, use 2, 4 or 6 pellets when opening things up, making her what Ubi described as the direction for her as the Queen of Hatches. Because using 4 is enough to open up a hatch, with 18 in pocket, you can open up 4 hatches, so very good on this map. Mira we've also seen be pretty strong, especially employed by a few teams. When we first saw the reworks of the bar and stage area coming in, the site itself, Mira was being employed up on the top floor to hold down things like construction, hold jacuzzi walls, so that became quite an effective place to play on this map. I think with Mira offline, you're not going to see it getting brought along here, and Valkyrie being the final ban, we've already said this several times, she is just an instant man at this competition.
Well, we've seen Valkyrie used a couple of times, you know, in recent history, not necessarily here at the Invitational over the last couple of days, but on coastline it's generally to try and coordinate vertical nitros into places like Kitchen. You know, you've got that visual then, so you can pre-place and you can say, yep, they're on the spot, bang, there you go, and you're getting those cheap kills. So yeah, it's just sort of a more direct alternative to somebody like having to play a pulse underneath there who needs to constantly sit on his heartbeat scanner to feed that information. It's just an alternative. As it stands, we're going to be heading to Church and Arsenal to begin with. It's going to be all the way down in the basement. TSM are on the defence, and I'm interested to see. I don't think we're going to have much of a roam presence from them here. Looking at the operator line out that they've brought, there's no denial for drones whatsoever, no Mute, no Mozzie. We've got the Kaid, which suggests they're going to be reinforcing all those hatches and trying to keep them closed. So we may have one off out on the roam, but I wouldn't expect to see it sort of committed to too heavily.
I'm liking that we're seeing the Ash being brought along. It's not all that often that you get to see her these days. You've seen it once or twice yesterday, but Fantasy straight on that. Ash main, lots of brain I'm hoping to see in this round. You've seen or heard of things called the Ash Rush Wall. It's where you can charge in down the main stairs, get the wall to your left opened up, and you're essentially straight inside of sight. Thank you very much there, Sayana. Off towards the left there, that like slightly plastered wall at the very end. That's the one. Charge into Arsenal, you can get a plant down at the very back. So keep a close eye for some cheeky plays like that, because as we've already seen from Fantasy, he's the kind of guy who will make that sort of play.
Interestingly, we'll catch it, I'm sure, as the round continues. I'm not sure there's a rotation from Blue Corridor into Church. Thank you very much, Sayana, for it. No, there is not. We've got peak holes opened up. There is a rotation instead into Armory, which will effectively do the same job. A player can play in there and challenge into Moto, but it's going to be fascinating to see whether that plays any part in this, because the absolute stock standard is the rotation back into Church. Kill is going to come in. The opener will go to Eyes. He's going to take down Charlie. That's the Kaid gone. I'm not sure exactly how he's been exposed there and been able to find that kill, but Merc is up on the top floor, pretty much a solo roaming presence, and he's getting hunted down by a Lender. If he just holds his horses for a minute, Rare is just coming to support as well. This is a full pinch. He's in trouble.
He gets droned, he's dead here. I mean, whiffs a few shots, but still finds the kill, and is still being pressured. There's one behind. Does he know about it? Getting shot through the soft wall, looking out towards the window. Does he know? He's sat on the drone, and finally Rare swings in. There was a 3-man pinch, and it took him a fair while to kill him out. Losing one, you'll be saying that's a bad outcome for FURIA.
Yeah, I mean, I have got to, because you've got one pushing into logistics. I thought they knew exactly where he was. They started spraying through the soft wall. I think you've got the pinch on. Merc can't move. He's backed into a corner, but obviously FURIA didn't actually have eyes on him, so as Lender went in, he looked left instead of right. He just knew that he was somewhere in construction, and as you can see, those are the small margins that we're dealing with. There's somewhere in construction versus a pinpoint call out can be the difference between life and death.
Massively so. Here they're hightailing it back up them on the main stairs. Now they've got themselves a little bit of intel on what's going on the below. Highs. This is the beauty of playing on the buckets. You can, of course, play at range here. Play inside a bar where you're on solid floor. You cannot be C4'd very easily. Going to get the hallway opened up essentially in its entirety, and then look towards you to inform where they should go next. We've also got Moto being opened up by the Maverick, so keep an eye on when those grenades start to rain in. I'm looking at the ones mainly on the Maverick, given the Iana has fell off a little bit here. It's going to be Highs finding another. He is on a tear today.
Oh, just exposing himself to that vertical angle there. Got to be more careful. You can't be shoving your face under a hole in kitchen floor like that. You've got to expect that somebody's going to be watching it. It leaves them now in a 2 versus 4. Geo's trying to hold down Blue, and FURIA are starting to push from every which way, Des. They've got Moto, they've got bottom of main stairs. Fantasy's got Geo. Achieved has to step forward to try and get Blue. It was a terrible time to try and change weapons. It was just unlucky timing for him. He didn't know that the player was necessarily going to step in at that point. It wasn't actually Fantasy who got the kill. It was Rare from inside of Church managed to use the soft walls and the holes that have been opened up to do so. Achieved. He was between a rock and a hard place, realistically. There was very little that he could do, but he knew that it was a short-range engagement, so a little surprised to see him moving off the shotgun. But nevertheless, FURIA, they take the round. It's going to be 1-0.
Jim Bedroom, the next one we step into. Great start for FURIA as well. The only kill that went against them was that one on the top floor from Merc. Otherwise, they completely cleared out the site. 4-0. Dominant start. Now we'll see how they fare off going into what many consider the offsite on this map. Jim and Bedroom for the side of TSM, changing away from the Clash onto the Wamai. There's also a 6-pick coming in on the other side. Lender going back over to that Iana once again, wanting to keep those grenades in pocket. Flores could be the interesting addition to this lineup, though, looking at it. We spoke already about the Flores being banned away in the last map, and just how impactful it can be. 4 of those Rotero drones very good at removing utility, and when the enemy team is bringing along Jaeger, Wamai, Goyo, what's the best tool for the job? Well, there's no Mute, so those Roteros are going to be absolutely perfect. So we'll follow Fantasy, keep a close eye on where those drones go and what damage they cause, because they could be pivotal to FURIA winning this round.
TSM setting up a pretty hard hold of the east side here. We've got Goyo shields, 2 of them. We've got ADSs, we've got YMI magnets, we've got reinforcements there. They are holding on to this like it's the site itself. They really do not want that pressure coming in from the windows and from the east side. FURIA look for the time being like they are likely to play into it instead of potentially just heading over to the Jacuzzi wall. It's a more difficult push, but it would circumvent a lot of utility here.
It's a real throwback to the utility meta, isn't it? Seeing Goyo shields, Wamai and Jaeger together, it's just a nightmare. But with no mute on side, it should mean they'll be able to get things opened up pretty quickly. And look at all this juicy utility. He's going to ignore the stuff here and go for another shield. So Achieved just seeing all those wonderful shields slowly taken away from him. You can see the east side of the map on fire right now as 2 of them have been removed away. Bolo rotating himself down in towards Garage, hoping to catch someone out getting a bit cheeky. Doubt he fancies to run out, but it's enough to put some pressure on the side of FURIA, who could be fearful that anyone could run out at a moment's notice.
That's it, it's just enough to make him think about it. Now Bolo is potentially thinking about a run out. He gets seen, it's just so easy for Fantasy Des. He gives them the 1-2 combo, it's lights out as he finds Bolo and Achieved. Great play from down on the ground. Fantasy really able to catapult FURIA into this round. And Des, I don't want to get carried away, but TSM look like a different side in these first 2 rounds.
It's almost like Clubhouse ain't one of their best maps. It's not even so much they've got the bad ideas, they're just not aware, for example, of the small things like Fantasy potentially stepping outside that door and waiting off to the right rather than always being on the left. It's a depth of playtime maybe on the map. I'm not saying they're bad at it, but compared to FURIA, they're just a couple of steps behind because they are cleaning house right now. It's a 5 versus 1. There's a flawless round on the way here. Oh, my man.
I feel for him.
I feel for him because there is no way out.
He just let down to die. He knew that there was absolutely nothing that he could do. FURIA furious in that round. And I'm concerned for TSM, Des, because it's like, yeah, Clubhouse might not be your map, but Clubhouse is a staple map of this competitive scene at the minute. You've got to be able to play it. And they're really struggling on the defense here so far. I hope that they find their feet and find their way into this a little bit. But, you know, FURIA are able to really dismantle them there. It was impressive. Particularly the 1-2 from Fantasy was very nice. The flick up onto Achieve, particularly through the east barricade, which had been open. But, you know, all the utility that they piled towards the east side there as well. It shows, I wanted to comment at the time, but it all kicked off. It shows how powerful the Flores is. 2 Roteros go in and clear out the 2 Goyos. 1 Rotero more, they didn't need to do it, they didn't choose to, but 1 Rotero just in through that drone hole would also have taken out 3 YMI magnets and 2 ADSs. Like, the entire setup would have been gone from 3 Rotero drones. Like, that's wild.
You can see why it was banned away on the last map.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
It's a similar story on Villa when you're attacking into Aviator gains and there's going to be a shield up on the Aviator table. Like, it's free. Just get rid of that. You can get rid of the drones that are there. You can get rid of, the mute jammers that are there. You can get rid of the ADSs. It's just such a valuable operator. We keep on saying it, but that's just because it is. Let's see how things go there now. We've moved down a little bit again. Let's see what the changes look like here for TSM. They've gone away from playing with all that kind of anti-utility setup. No Jaeger, no Wamai in sight, no Goyo in sight. It is a full change-up for their second defense of basement.
As you say, we've got Geo over on the strip side now, just choosing to get out into the map a little bit more. It wasn't something that they found too much success with last time. It was the 1 kill that they got came from Merc up on the top floor. But FURIA, as always, they're starting at the top and they're going to work their way down. Bolo is up there on the Legion, so he's going to need clearing out. There's half of the wall been left soft on Jacuzzi, which will allow for pretty quick entry if FURIA choose to go in that direction. But just 1 reinforcement just trying to protect that corridor. But Bolo's going to dip down. Look at this. Fantasy's already in blue. He's going to find 1. Lender gets another. FURIA just running roughshod over TSM right now. It's up to Achieve to stand up and try and be the full stop to just stop FURIA coming in and shutting them down. But there's 2 kills alongside. It's all up to Geo. It's 3 versus 1. Fantasy with Diffuser in hand. He's down there in the basement. They can think about a plant here.
Depends where he's coming pushing in from, mind you. Geo suspecting someone's going to come pushing up from oil, and he's got the right idea, because that's where Fantasy is sat. But he can rotate out, push his way through dirt. And I was about to comment on how interesting the setup was that they got an electrified strip wall to try and slow FURIA down. But all they did was say, let's go a little bit faster. Geo finding him at range, getting the shutdown diffuser has been dropped. Rotates out through pipes. He's now stepping up into the longer hallway. Miracle retrieving the diffuser is going to push back onto site. Has got to be careful of the cross here as well. Loses out. How have they done this? They're almost throwing it away. Lender needs to win the 1v1. But Geo, he's calculated everything down to this moment. A 3v1, 2a1 versus 1. Diffuser will go down and Geo knows where. If Lender doesn't look left now, he might find himself shot in the backside. Geo with a huge 1v3 wins the round for TSM and gets their journey on Clubhouse underway.
That's absolutely huge from Geo there. A 1v3 with diffuser down. As you say, he played everything right. FURIA, they did everything wrong there. They were just going in there one at a time, just straying across. Fantasy comes down blue stairs. He's not ADS. He's not checking to see if there's anybody in blue challenging. It's a free kill for Geo. We then have the man on the Maverick, steps across the main stairs door, gets gunned down. They were just throwing themselves at Geo.
It's one of those that I look at and just think, this could have been 0-3 and a dream start for FURIA. And I know you look at those and go, oh, well, you can't win them all. Absolutely, but
you got to win. I'm sorry.
You've got to win that. There's no excuse.
Sorry, FURIA.
You know, like full sprinting down blue is one thing, and then Miracle retrieving the diffuser and walking directly into the line of sight of the main hallway. Another mistake being made. They'll live to rue that one. They'll live to rue it. But either way, they're still in the lead. Things aren't looking too shabby yet for the side of FURIA. Go back up onto the, arguably I'd say, one of the most well-known sites in the game of Cash and CC. FURIA here, the Flores returns once again. It did so much work previously and all in good time because Bolo is bringing along the Goyo.
That's it, they've got the Goyo, so the shields to clear out. Geo on the Kaid as well is going to try and make it difficult, but probably to open the East Breach. He may choose to play them on the Garage Catwalk, the electricals, just to try and, yep, that's exactly where they're going to go. So they're going to leave, are they going to leave the East Breach, or is he just going to electrify one of them? It looks like they're maybe just going to electrify one and leave the other. Interestingly, they've left half of the bottom garage wall soft as well. I'm not sure where that other reinforcement is going to have been used, but by leaving that one soft, they allow quick access to FURIA. That's the wall that you would usually try and breach to get into garage, get underneath Catwalk and start throwing things up on there. But with Bolo playing on the Goyo, he's probably down in Lounge, a hole in the wall between Lounge and garage, and he's going to look to challenge on. He's actually deeper in blue at the minute, doesn't have a shield set up right now, but the hole has been opened up, so he's looking to make a challenge from that side, but I think it's a little bit risky, this defense.
First Rotero gets eaten. You got Charla and Mert watching that drone hole like a hawk, just waiting for the next one to come through. He's going to try the second one now, force its way through, see what he can try and find. Getting a run-up, actually. Oh, no. Okay, he tried to get it through the breach, but it's still electrified, so he just lost the second Rotero.
Yeah. They'll get that cleared off before long. Fantasy takes a view through, knows that there's a man playing on the shield, just looking out of the cash door. Not going to get an opportunity to land any shots onto him. We're a minute in, we've got the rotation open. That will allow the Rotero drones to come in and start trying to clear those shields out. Geo, he's going to head back onto the Catwalk for the time being. Interestingly that they've reinforced both panels from Catwalk through into server.
Yeah, normally you see at least head-level holes open up, right? So you can challenge through when someone's getting control of the Catwalk, or even challenge through onto the breach itself. Not that it matters, as Lender has started things off. This time it's Mert going down. That Wamai taken out quite early will mean the team miss out on 3 or 4 of those magnets. A second one flies through. A 5 versus 3 sets in for FURIA, and now TSM will start to feel the pressure.
Charla taking damage. Achieve does manage to find Miracle, and it's Achieve time and time again that keeps getting them back into these rounds. He's the one that seems to step up and find a kill when needed most. He's on the Legion in basement, and he's trying to make his way back up the blue stairs, then potentially red stairs, to get himself back into sight and back in the fight. But for the time being, FURIA are looking to pressure construction side. They've got the CCTV window open as well, potentially looking for a plant inside of there, and Achieved is inside a garage. I'm not sure how aware they are of his presence here at the minute, but he's going to have to make a move because Lender's found a nade onto Charla. Lender's found Geo. He's just absolutely cutting through them at the minute. Rare is planting, and Achieved, he's in no man's land. There's absolutely no chance he can impact on this. Gets one, but now they know exactly where he is. There's a man watching that Achieved. You're going to have to go somewhere else.
come down to a point, I think, where Lender having a 3K is more than enough to secure the round. Highs watching on red. Then Ready if he comes pushing up Garage as Lender is holding the window. So like we said earlier on, you can't do much from Garage, who's the defender's trying to retake, because all you got to work with is the window. Highs getting the shutout. Another great round coming in for Furia, who you would wager at this point should be 0-4, well, 4-0.
Absolutely, you know, like you say, it's only for the grace of a 1v3 from Geo that TSM have got around on the board at all here. I think we're going to see a TSM tactical timeout.
Don't blame them.
Are indeed. They're just going to try and break things down and have a chat here. Like I said, I'm going to be interested to have a look back at the defensive setups, particularly from TSM on this site. You know, there's no one right way to set up sites, but there's a couple of things that have made me sort of go, huh, like, you know, why are they doing that? What's the purpose of that? And, you know, it's not really something that we see all too commonly, and Furia are picking them apart, so I'd have to suggest that it's not working.
Reminds me of Sandbox and their washroom reinforced that just keeps on tilting me on Cafe. I see it every time and it just winds me up, and I'm just like, well, you've now been shown by M&M that it's a bad idea. Will you carry on? Time will tell. Interesting little stat for you. Across the 3 rounds that TSM have lost, that's rounds 1, 2, and 4, they have a measly 3 kills. That's just how bad those 3 rounds have gone and how excellently Furia have played them out. It's looking pretty rough for them. I'm looking at the scoreboard now as well. 8 kills in total across those rounds. Again, all 5 of those coming in the 1 round. They come out on top off the back of a Geo 1 versus 3.
Well, Furia certainly on top of this one so far. 3-1 it stands. They have 2 rounds left on the attack. And I'll be honest, I don't see this changing on the defense stairs. Coming into it with the way that TSM played on Villa, I was expecting more from them. I thought we might be over in 2 here, but Furia have stepped up and said, yeah, you can play well on your own maps, but we're going to dominate on ours. And the thing is, right now, you're looking at Villa was TSM's map choice. 7-5, Furia stretched them all the way. Clubhouse, Furia's map choice, they're running away with it. And that starts to make me wonder towards that 3rd map.
Well, I mentioned earlier on about bar and stage that we likely wouldn't see it picked up because the mirror's been banned away. Well, TSM have proved me wrong and they've got their own ideas for this site. They are relying very heavily on the intel game, though. You've got the Echo coming along and you've got the Maestro. On top of that, Bolo, yet to find himself on the scoreboard, is also bringing along the Castle. Castle normally used when you think of the SSG roam, for example, but here, I'm always excited to see how teams are still innovating on what they're doing. Achieved is already electrified off strip. They did this once earlier on when defending inside of the basement. And here I think the goal is, again, just slow them down. You can play inside a strip because they've got a rotation through into it. Just playing very spread, very lateral across the ground floor rather than worrying about the upstairs.
That's it. We've got Merc up there. We would expect at least some attention to be paid. We've got the electrical just preventing access in through that construction reinforced wall. Bolo's going to castle off, so there's probably going to be a presence of at least 1 or 2 players on the top floor. You can deny most of the common plant spots from up there, so Furia may want to clear that out, but they're going to have quite a lot of work ahead of them. As you say, they're really spread out here. 3 on the top floor, 1 over in strip, Charla behind the bar. There's certainly a lot of ground to cover for Furia, but to be honest, the strip side they could kind of ignore.
I mean, they're probably going to. It wouldn't be hard to take because they've opened it up like Swiss cheese inside of there at this point, Tim. Everything's opened up. You get inside strip, you've got access to a lot of the areas around it off that basis alone. It's just that the main wall can't be opened up, but they've got Jacuzzi open at this point. They've got to deal with Bolo, who's hanging up there. Geo's off to the far right, and Merc, I believe, is just laid down inside of stock and looking to cause a little bit of trouble. Let's see how it plans out, because no doubt his top floor control is going to be pivotal. That's exactly why you've got Highs, Lender, and Fantasy all now looking to work their way through this top floor and pressure these members of TSM out.
Logistics hatch open, Merc opening a rotation just to allow them to escape back into bedroom. And as you say, the bullets already pinging into the walls as Furia are getting in there aggressively and looking to move TSM back at every step of the way. Lender, he's already in construction practically. He's looking to aggress forward here, and the opening kill is not far away. You feel Merc's going to take a bit of damage there. He's got 2 angles that he's trying to watch. Fantasy working the windows and Rare over on the Jacuzzi wall. Fantasy's now going to be sending in the Rotero drones, just clearing out utility ahead of them as they go. Is it going to get shot out? Yes, Merc manages to put the Alder to work and clear that one out, but information has been gained, if nothing else. Bolo with a kill onto Fantasy. Rare manages to get one of his own and a trade onto Bolo. That's 2 for the Thermite, 4 versus 3 very quickly.
That's exactly what you want as well, because now the top floor starts to run thin, and there's the clear. Highs finding yet another, and Achieve just beelines it back downstairs, hovering around the basement here on main stairs, but sight is essentially clear. Charla's out towards Strip at this point, so FURIA have got the full run at the mill. They can do whatever they want from this point, including try and go for a plant as long as they can hold those angles off. Achieved is now lost in Narnia downstairs. Charla unmoving still, so again, control to FURIA.
The main stairs is super important for this site as well, because it's just going to cut off any rotation back across to try and impact on this plant that's going down. It's going to be rare to lock it in. Charla cannot move across that main door. There you go. The kill comes in from Lender. Simple as that from FURIA. So much map control, every angle covered, and just they are crossing every T, dotting every I. Everything is FURIA's here.
On the attack of Clubhouse as well. They're making it look easy at this point, Tim.
It's a speed run any percent.
It basically is, yeah. They've dropped the one round that everyone will look at and say, they shouldn't have won that. It should be 5-0 to FURIA right now, but at least for TSM, they've got one more round to get something on the board. Is a 4-2 split to the attackers what you want at the half? No. Is it what you'll take when it's the only thing left on the cards? Sure.
Okay then, TSM, now's the time. You got to lock down that basement. You cannot rely on another Geo 1v3. You got to keep yourself alive. They're just dying so early in the round as FURIA are able to come in and almost kill them at will. If you remember, Fantasy last time pushed into blue 30 seconds into the round. It was a real old school Ash rush, just straight down into there and got himself the opening kill. That time it was on, I don't record who it was on to actually. I missed that one because it was so quick.
Speed
TSM, I'm sort of surprised. We've got Bolo on the Legion, we've got the Malusi. I just want to sort of try and figure out where those are being used. The Gumans, the Banshee. You know, how are you trying to slow FURIA down here? Because it didn't work last time.
It didn't work very well, did it? They could try their very best, and ultimately it was that kind of rush-based play. Once they saw the extension into Strip and knew that we had Charla playing out that far, it was like, hey, let's just go for it. They're not going to go for the same thing again just yet, I don't think, although they are reinforcing it off. They're really swearing by this wall being electrified.
I mean, they want it electrified, Des. I'm never one to say that something's wrong because lots of other teams don't do it.
For sure. But it's not been a focus.
Nobody else does that.
And no one, they've not tried to push into Strip, they've never droned it out. They've just pretended, like many people do on this map, that Strip just simply doesn't exist.
And TSM aren't getting anything from it. You know, if you remember NIP the other day, they played Pino up in logistics. It's a bit different. We don't see it all the time. But it worked. It was, you know, it was great. They got something out of it. But this is the thing, TSM I just don't really see getting much out of this. Merc is going to get something out of Highs. He manages to find a kill to take the book down, and that's a big operator to be taken out here.
Arguably your favourite outside of the hard breaches, although Rare had already done a little bit of opening work. You remove the man that's responsible for doing all the vertical destruction. They've got to lean on Fantasy now and those breaching rounds coming out of the Ash to open up enough holes in the floor for them to do work. But he's only got one charge left, so if you ask me, it's looking a little bit miserable as far as vertical play is concerned, which means they can't restrict the defenders as much on the site downstairs. Great first pick, and let's see how that impacts FURIA.
Yep, it will leave them a little bit thin on the ground. Bolo just trying to challenge those main stairs still. We've got Geo established inside of Strip. He's going to pretty much get himself cut off at this point, though, as Merc drops back to site. As soon as Bolo tries to return, that's going to then be difficult for Geo to find his way back. Fantasy has pushed down into blue. Does he know that there's one to the right-hand side of him? Charla will know of his presence because he triggers the Malusi Banshee as he gets a little bit too close to the wall. The yellow pin goes out just to signal to his team that that's the case, and this is it. Geo is found out inside a Strip. They're well aware of his position here, and his days may be numbered as FURIA's eyes turn towards him.
So finally they're thinking, okay, now we've got to start paying some form of attention because the guy who clutched up big last time is out in Strip by himself. They made us choose to go towards site and have a drone watching him because realistically, there's only one or two ways he can come out. He can push down through the hallway or he can rotate through into pool. There is no other way he gets involved back in this map, and in fact, Rare has got a drone sat just there watching. they will see him come back to site no matter what. And that's exactly what Hyze will do. He'll sit on that flank drone. He is essentially not a part of this round for now.
Chalet was so unfortunate there. We missed it. Miracle!
No!
Miracle just taking a reflex shot, and he takes Lender down in the main corridor. That could have been the round-winning moment for FURIA, but it falls apart. And then more damage is done as Fantasy hits Rare as he takes the kitchen drop. Trying to get that diffuser down. 2v3, there's still an opportunity. Fantasy's going to go for it. Rare's on the cover, but he has only got one bullet in him to take. And there comes the first kill for TSM. Probably going to win them out the round now, as it's 1v2. There it comes from Gio, and it was a little bit messy from FURIA on that attack. But Chalet, I just want to come back to it. It was easy to miss, but he was super unlucky. He was on the shield and he was watching blue corridor, and we only noticed on the silhouette that he actually turned 90 degrees towards kitchen hatch at the exact second that the man walks across single door into blue and is able to then just walk in through the rotation. It was so unlucky that he missed Miracle coming in, and that round could have been very difficult. If Miracle doesn't hit Lender, and if Fantasy doesn't hit Rhea, and if FURIA can stop killing each other, then, you know,
that'd be great.
That'd be great. Maybe they win the round.
No, I don't think they would have as well, because if Lender stays alive in the hallway, he stops the rotate down main stairs that ultimately kills Fantasy whilst he's going in for the plant. So, again, I'll touch on it. It's a couple of rounds in that half that I don't feel TSM won. I feel FURIA lost to themselves. And I know one of them was a big playoff Geo. We're not trying to take that away from him. But those round losses were preventable for FURIA. They could be up 6-0 right now on this map if those couple of missteps hadn't happened.
Yep, I'd have to agree with you. It's going to be Church and Arsenal then. FURIA will just be looking to write off that last round. It happens. It's not the end of the world. It's one of those situations that's going to occur. If you fire enough bullets, eventually one or two of them are going to hit your teammates. I mean, it was a great reaction from Miracle.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't blink. He was straight onto it. He was just in the zone at that point.
I wish I could flick like that subconsciously.
There was a shape.
Think about it.
There was a shape and he shot it. It just turned out to be his teammate. So, Church and Arsenal, we're going to have a top floor presence. It's the Mutant Mozzie combo.
Joined by the Kaid. This is different. So what they've actually gone for is, rather than just jamming off the wall, because since the change to mute where his jammer is now spherical rather than being cylindrical, spherical for those who get that reference, it now means they can keep the wall closed off a little bit easier. They'll have to get themselves on towards the south side wall, try and find out the Electro Claw, which ain't going to be an easy task. And Merc is the first one to find a kill. Down goes the Mozzie. That is not ideal.
Is this the point for TSM? Did they just need to get themselves onto attack to start picking FURIA apart? 5 versus 4, and as you say, the clearance of that top floor roam is underway. Fantasy gone. Lender is going to stay in position, opens the hatch just to give himself an escape route. Hyze watching garage door, just dips away at the wrong time there. May have got himself one had he hung around, but couldn't, because the east breach has been opened up, and TSM just stalled out a little bit. They've got that opening kill, but they haven't pushed into the map yet. Lender is going to take the opportunity to drop away. The top floor roam, you're really looking for it to sort of hold on for 1.5 to 2 minutes. That's what you're looking to waste up there, and FURIA have just had to push back a little bit before that.
Just a smidge. But it's about forcing out these players on the top floor, which does require you choosing one side and working your way across, and it looks to be out towards the east. Bolo's starting to charge his way across here on the right side of the map. So what will FURIA do? They move their way across to the left, down the main stairs, where there is no pincer waiting for them, and safely get themselves back on site. So the majority of FURIA are now back. It's Miracle who sat out inside of dirt. So TSM really are chasing ghosts here across the top floor. Most of the team has already retreated far, far away, and it's now just about the clearance thing for TSM. So yes, we've seen FURIA lose a member, but they've also wasted about 2 minutes.
That's it, and TSM, they need to be getting themselves down onto that mid-floor, really. It's about opening hatches, it's about opening vertical angles, because at this point in time, it's going to take them about 30-40 seconds to gain the access to site that they need to complete stage 2, essentially, which is getting your access and clearing out your utility, opening up that plant spot and having an opportunity to put it down. I would expect another 20 to 30 seconds of work for them, which means they're coming in with only 20 to 30 seconds left. It gives them one opportunity, realistically, to get that diffuser down, or it's going to become a massive scramble. FURIA, they're locked into sight, all 4 of them down there, 1 in dirt tunnel, 1 in blue. They're watching every direction, every angle. This is not going to be easy for TSM from here.
I think Lender just tickled at Achiev's feet there as he ran out of kitchen and moved his way down towards dirt. They are trying to get this kind of multifaceted attack on the go. An early smoke canister coming down inside of blue and there's no one really pressing in there just yet, it looks like. In fact, there is now someone there looking to step their way forward. Merc down main stairs, he's going to press in and try and find one. Charla finds a double in the round after being pretty quiet so far, but he hasn't completed this. They are on the scoreboard. In comes Achieve for another. It's all going wrong for FURIA. It's Highs left in a 1 versus 4, and he can't stop this plant going down. It will get finished off by Geo. In fact, it's Achieve getting the kill just before that ticks through, and TSM take another round and start closing that gap, Tim.
Well played from TSM there. Very nicely getting down there. They didn't have a lot of time to work with necessarily, but 10 seconds left. They're in there getting that diffuser down, managed to find their kills. Rare gave him a little bit of a freebie there. He knew that Church Wall was open. You can't be strafing across it like that. He just wasn't ready to take a challenge, and Charla getting a very important kill that really opened up the round, because as you saw then, FURIA had to try and react to that because the plant spot was unmanned at that point. Rare was not in position to be able to deny a plant attempt, so FURIA had to try and move. They had to try and shoot through soft walls, just do anything they could, and it all got a little bit frantic on the defensive side. But that is a big boost for TSM, and TSM fans out there, I think they're going to be breathing a sigh of relief at this point, Des. It looked rough for them coming in to those first 4 rounds, but they've just started to show a little bit of a better understanding, a little bit of a better performance here on Clubhouse over the last couple of rounds, and you feel like there is a fight in them now.
Charla may have got the 2 complete in that last round of the downs. I'm not quite sure which way it works, but he did get a double kill in the last round, even though right now it says he is 0-6. So before we all pile on Charla, let's remember, he's still having an impact, just isn't necessarily being reflected in the scoreboard, at least for him. It's being attributed to other members of his team right now, based on the way the kills work and the kill credit being changed to kills on down members going to the original player that put them down in the first place. It's going to be a repeated defense out of FURIA. Near identical setup, again with the Kai looking upstairs. I believe Rare is electrifying that wall from below, with the Mute and Mozzie playing up on the top floor. So yes, it is the same again. The key difference, hopefully, is that Fantasy does not get picked off too early into the round.
That's it. The top floor clearance from TSM was actually really good last time around. They just got in there, forced them back. Like you say, they, 1 minute 40, they were dropping back to site, and FURIA really need to try and hold on for a little bit longer than that. But TSM, once they get that control, we just want to see them move a little bit quicker towards getting themselves onto site as well, and just being a little bit more confident that they've got that map cleared out. But Highs, he's going to be pushed back for the time being into Cash. He was playing in CCTV originally. He's just going to start collapsing back. The hatches are open, so he can drop away when he feels he needs to. Lender and Fantasy already have Des, and this is going to be super quick from TSM here. They're inside the first minute, and they've already got 2 of the roamers pushed back.
It's good, I think, for FURIA to even draw back. Yes, you've only wasted 60 seconds, but you're not really going to say no to that. And I've kind of thought what the game plan is here. They make it a bit easier to open up the cash wall because they don't electrify it. And TSM look at that and go, okay, Jacuzzi wall, electrified, reinforced, there's jammers down the stairs, for example, there's lots working against us. Let's just not bother. Let's instead push all our attention out towards the east, and that's where FURIA stick things like the Banshees up on stairways. So, really interesting sort of encouragement by FURIA and trying to direct TSM's attention that so far seems to be working. We're at that 90-second mark. No one yet going down, but TSM are starting to get into position. They're pressuring around blue, looking down towards Highs, playing behind Stack, and my small concern for him is there's no Jaeger, there's no Wamai, it could be some freebies, but first it's Fantasy collecting his free prize, and he finds it achieved.
Great little nitro from Fantasy there to just open things up. Exactly what you feel FURIA needed. Lender's going to double down and find one onto Bolo, 5 versus 3. Kitchen hatch has been opened, but blue is now in FURIA control without too much of a challenge coming in from that side, so they can confidently look towards the hatch drop rather than worrying too much about the other side of the map. Fantasy, look how aggressively he's playing under this hatch in Moto. He's just looking to catch the man out as that gets opened up. He doesn't care. He's not moving, Des. He's just going to wait until that thing pops. He's going to drop back, get a longer angle, but Charla needs to be careful.
He does. We've seen a couple of almost very cheeky kills through hatches being opened, or even just holes opened up by a Maverick earlier on today. Fortunately, none that stung too much, but enough that would have done some big damage. Of course, those nades being taken away from Maverick. Not one you want to be losing when you're coming round to the execute. Charla was still one in back pocket. Geo drops in right into the face of FURIA through the rotation hole, and it's an easy close out. Charla coming down for the trade. Merc into another, but there's a 2 versus 3. Fantasy into another, into a third, and closes it out in round 8. FURIA back in control.
FURIA get themselves that 2-round lead again, 5-3 now, and that could be a slippery slope for TSM to find themselves on. If FURIA can start locking out defences here like they did attacks, this one's going to be over very, very quickly. 5-3 now, and they're going to head to their second choice site, which is going to be gym and bedroom for FURIA. We're heading onto the west side of the map. We will expect to see a strong east side presence, much the same as TSM did. TSM, they need to work on that top floor clearance just as well as they did back in round 7. They were able to manipulate FURIA's defense, force them out of positions very, very well. They need to do that with the east stairs, not take too long over it, get the breach open, get in there and get control.
Righty, over to gym and bedroom then again. The off-site many would consider. Let's see what FURIA are made of up here. The change away from the tactics they've employed so far that often saw Kaid, a Mew, and Mozzie, for example. We've got Fantasy going across the playing on the Jaeger, so they do have some util catching ability, and high stepping across onto the Aruni, which serves a number of purposes. One, she has the bulletproof, great gadget to bring along in the first place, but two, she does kind of function as an extension towards a Mutant, a Mozzie, a Jaeger and a Wamai. You can chuck nades through into, of course, the lasers to destroy them, but it does consume the utility in the process. And rather than throwing in grenades or losing 30 HP charging through them, chances are you're just going to throw a nade or a flash or a projectile of some kind in through there to clear it out.
FURIA choosing to reinforce both sides as we would expect. Jacuzzi wall, we've got a single on bathroom, we've got east wall. So yeah, pretty standard setup. They're going to try and hold on to the majority of the top floor. Interestingly, 2 deployable shields at the top of red stairs. One for any challenge coming from the stairs itself, and one for the challenge coming in from the breach. One is a Goyo shield, I believe the other might be a standard shield. It is indeed. My eyes do not deceive me, Des.
I'd hope not, mate. Even with your glasses off, you're still seeing pretty well.
It's only when it's siege utility, I can't see anything else. I can see whether a deployable shield's Goyo or not from the front side, because I watch that much siege, but yeah, I can't see much else.
Well, that's the important detail to have caught in that situation, good sir. That's where the focus comes in. Now we've got ourselves on the Jacuzzi breach that's also been opened up by Geo.
Quick progress.
It is pretty quick progress, all inside 60 seconds, yes. Rare looking to be a bit of a troublemaker. Knows that someone is outside the window. It was achieved who's already stepped inside meat, so not going to be able to find him, unfortunately, unless he chooses to come and rotate out of this spot. There's one more on the downstairs inside the bathroom. Rare is waiting, daring this man to come stepping in, but TSM a little too diligent with 3 members now on drones, hoping to catch him out before any 2 crazy plays start coming in.
Bolo on his almost trademark Sophia at this point is going to push around from bathroom, take out the default cam, and Rez just missed his opportunity there if he wanted to spring out of main stairs and have some impact, but Bolo's going to just claymore off the hatch. He might well head back towards main stairs to look to challenge it, but with those concussive grenades, he's going to be careful. I think he knows that there's somebody playing up there. Rare, he wants to peek this stairs, he wants a look, he's going to back out, he's not going to go for it. Highs manages to take a lot of damage there. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but it's about 95 HP gone, and he needs to be careful now inside of construction, just trying to hold down the windows, but anything, he's a breath away from death. It's not going to take much. Here comes a nade to try and clear out Rare. It's not going to. He gets very lucky. He manages to find one on the peak, but Polo with an immediate trade.
A nice trade coming in. I mean, the fact that he got a kill there despite TSM knowing that he's been there for the last 30 seconds or so really speaks volumes for Rare's ability to get something out of a situation that looked pretty dire. 4 versus 4, 35 seconds on the clock, and TSM starting to run thin on the drone in the intel game too. So a lot of it's going to come down to this heads-up play of landing shots they need to. Fantasy and Highs are both on a slither of HP. Merc has gone down, another one finished off, so it's down to Charla all by himself. It's going to be enough. Miracle with 2 massive kills, and FURIA find themselves moving up to 6 rounds. It's 6-3.
Too easy for Miracle there, just takes a little peek around that shower wall, gets himself one, and then hits the deck for the second to come in with the big pump of the shotgun and closes down TSM. Still struggling to get themselves into this one on Clubhouse. FURIA cruising here, 6-3 map point, and they're looking to take us to that Chalet decider, and I'll be honest, I think everybody at home, just like us, really wants that Chalet decider.
Chalet is my favourite map at the minute.
Overtime on Chalet. Overtime on Chalet. That's what we want.
We'll take a 3-map stinger to come to the end of the leg. Look back at SSG yesterday, right?
We need NA versus LATAM. It's all written, Des. It's all there.
It's where the fun is at. Chalet hasn't been a massive favourite map of TSM's, mind you. They beat Xset there. They played against a team in the quals, but they do ban it away a lot along the journey too. Now, I know that you'll always say to me, and everyone says this about Coastline as well, is don't take LATAM teams to Chalet. What are your general thoughts on FURIA on that map?
I think it'll be a good map for FURIA, given that it's quite new and that TSM don't play it an awful lot. FURIA are a team that have got a lot of options in the strat book. You know, they always come and they always have a new idea, they always have something different to do, and I think Chalet is the sort of map that you can play like that on. You know, there is multiple options to do things. It's not their best map, but I think that they could be dangerous on there.
I mean, opponents ban it away against them a lot, so they're clearly fearful of what they can achieve on the map, so we'll see what happens when we come into that. Let's see how things play out for now then. As it stands, we are indeed upstairs in Cash and CC once again. These final 3 minutes determine whether or not TSM get to keep this game going through to overtime or if FURIA close it out here and now.
Now Rare just setting himself up inside of logistics there. I'm not sure how long he's going to stick around. He's moved away for the time being. I think he's just trying to potentially challenge onto the hatch. He's just trying to lock down the whole west side. Lender's your man that's on Garage Catwalk. He's potentially going to have some company in a moment as we have the Maverick of Charla just moving towards there. Going to hit the drones for the time being. Also supported by Fantasy down in Lounge, a setup that we see much more commonly now. And Gio, once again, TSM were able to open up the walls very quickly last time around. They're going to do the same thing here, but it didn't really get them anywhere last time.
No, that's the problem, right? We spoke a bit about the kind of garage control that was double reinforced off by TSM for FURIA. I doubt they're all too fearful of how this round's going to play out, given, as you say, it didn't go too badly for them last time. There is no Jaeger on side, and it's one thing I've talked about them in this second half. They've rotated very comfortably between different setups where, you know, we've seen the Jaeger, the Wamai, and the Goyo as a collective. We've seen the Jaeger and the Goyo as isolated two, and now we're seeing the Wamai and the Goyo as an isolated two. So a number of changes coming in across for both teams as to what the lineup is, but always carrying that kind of hint of utility-based play.
Lender and Charla are going to come to blows very, very soon at this rate. There's the peak to start things off. Lender knows the man's there now, but here comes the rush in through the breach. Lender manages to shut Merc down through the soft wall, and that is why you leave that wall soft. Able to get himself a nice kill inside of sight. Lender still holding down Garage. Achieved, however, finds Fantasy, and that levels us up at 4 versus 4. We've got a minute left on the clock, and Miracle's looking. He was tempted to get aggressive there, but steps back. Bolo punishes Lender out on Garage Catwalk. Those angles work both ways, and he proves it nicely. That's going to give TSM some great access to sight, a man advantage. This one is definitely within reach for them.
Rare sat below with the C4 in hand, just kind of daring them to go for it, but the problem is achieved. He's working his way in from stock, and I think Rare knows about this. He's holding the pixel angle. SMG not quite the best after the first shot. It does have a bit of a kick on it. It kicks like a mule. Can't find the closing kill on 2 of the players pushing through, but it does warn TSM that there is someone present as we get down towards these dying seconds now. 25 are left, and TSM are in a 4 versus 2.
Achieved has just completed a very important hunt there, taking Rare down, and that is going to signal to TSM that they are safe to go in and get this diffuser down. It's up to Gio to move forward from Garage Catwalk and do so. Achieved finds Miracle. He's moved in with the backstab, gets one, Bolo gets the other, and that's going to be TSM taking the attack on CCTV and Cash, but they've got 2 more rounds to find without a mistake yet if they want to win this in 2 maps.
It's a good round from TSM. Good pressure and control being taken, and I thought Rare might have a bit of an X factor for them as it went on, but as soon as they got control of Garage, 2 players swarmed their way through and started working their way north side from there. It started well, Lender getting the opening kill onto the Garage door, but again, TSM just investing more resources into a pretty key location. Next site is going to be back down in the basement that we've seen them go down to twice already. It went okay the first time and then didn't look so great the next. We'll see what they can do with it here.
Like you say, Church and Arsenal, a little bit of hit and miss for TSM. Great to start with, but then FURIA are able to lock it down.
The big fancy 3K as well.
Sorry?
Big fantasy 3K.
It was a big fantasy 3K. I recall it was just basically getting kills left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
Inside.
Just fantasy things.
Just fantasy things. Just kills left, right, and centre inside a site. I mean, he's had another reasonable map here, 9 and 6 he sits on. But what I like to see from the side of FURIA, Des, we spoke about all the teams before we came into this tournament, and I said, FURIA, they've got Fantasy who can go big. He needs the other 4 supporting him, and in BR6 particularly, that's been a little bit of a struggle. But look at those numbers, 9, 7, 8, 7, 8, very even. All of them pulling in the same direction, all of them doing great work, and that is why FURIA have been so difficult to play against here on Clubhouse.
We said a few times their journey is kind of Team 1 minus 12 months, because if you remember back to how we all viewed Team 1 at the start of last year, it was, Alamo as the big star player. He was the guy that would carry you through, and the other 4 were kind of there as supporting acts, and over time they warmed into things more, got more comfortable in their roles and started delivering, and we've deliberated, when will that happen for FURIA? Fantasy has always been the star player, but I'm starting to get a bit of a thing for Miracle. The man's been on fire the last couple of days. I'm really enjoying seeing him play in the supportive role. A great front man, a great one in the back line. The rest have then got to start to fill out the gaps in the middle.
Interesting use of those corner healing stations from Lender there. He's got 3 in pocket that he's just carrying around with him, Des, and he's just popping them down on the ground when he needs healing. We're going to have an opening kill this time. Bolo onto highs. We see the body tumbling in front of us. That's going to be the Malusi gone, and the FURIA roam starts to fall apart. And if we think back to the round on Church and Arsenal that TSM won on the attack, it was a great roam clearance that it followed. So if they can continue with this and find a few more bodies, it's going to do a job for them. Now then, Lender, he's just waiting for that cooldown on the corner station. He gets his heal again. He's back up to full health, but they are not up to full man count as Merc finds Fantasy, and that's now 5v3. And this is very reminiscent of round 7 when TSM were able to take the win. Des, TSM could bring it back within 1. We could be looking at a 6-5 here.
We could be looking at overtime if it carries on this way. Miracle finally getting a shutdown, but elsewhere achieved brings down Lender. So whilst they have fought back a little bit, it's still a 4 versus 2. It's the kind of scoreline or the kind of, I suppose, player count that you look at and say this should not lead to a thrown round. TSM should be able to close it out and force us all the way through to 12. When we were looking earlier on and saying, man, that should have been a 6-0 half for FURIA.
Really should. Particularly like you say, the Geo 1v3, you're really going to be looking back at that as a moment. If this goes to overtime, for example, you're going to be looking back at that and say, FURIA, you're going to be kicking yourselves. It's down to the 2 that are left on site. Miracle and Rare, they're up against 4 and they're up against the clock. There's still an age left, 50 seconds to go, and that is not ideal from Miracle. He steps into the line of sight of Merc and gives him a nice easy kill. The challenge comes in, but Merc is more than equal to it. Gets himself another. And TSM, they get 5 rounds, and we're going to the full 12 on Clubhouse, which at the beginning, it didn't look too likely. TSM fighting hard here, and this is the sort of performance I want to see out of NA, Des. You can just feel the desire from TSM to win here on a map that they struggled with at the beginning.
Keep on fighting their way back in, and it means FURIA essentially have the full choice of sites here. They're going to take a timeout, and CC is going to be where they choose to head to. We saw it just a couple of moments ago, and it was achieved, netting a big 3K that dragged them through into this round. I'm feeling a little bit nervous if I'm FURIA, because thinking about coming into this map, TSM opted to start on defense. You would wager that FURIA are going to choose in overtime, given it was their map choice, to start on the defensive side. Yet it's defense where both teams have struggled so far, and it looks like both teams will end on a 4-2 attacking half. If FURIA have got 2 rounds on defense, I think TSM can take it and take this 2-0, because for them, also consider you get 3 points out of it, and you get to hide Chalet for a little bit longer.
Oh, it's big. If you remember, I said that FURIA don't always know when they're beaten, and they've got an incredible ability to come back from 6-2 down, 6-1 down. They will just keep fighting. The other problem, the flip side of that for FURIA is they don't always know when they've won. And they don't get it over the line sometimes, and they will get to that map point, and we see them let teams back into it. It's just the end of the game can be a struggle for them sometimes.
They don't know when they've won. They don't know when they've lost.
Just come in and fight for every round.
All right, we'll take it.
But it is something that I've seen from FURIA before, that they'll get, particularly back when they had the relegation problems. And I was sort of saying, this team have got wins in them. I can feel it. I can see it. It was because so many of their losses were 7-5. were overtime loss. You know, it was just so common for them to get themselves to the finishing post and not get themselves over the line. Over the last year, they've dealt with that an awful lot, but it is still something that crops up from time to time, and I've got to say this is the case. You know, they came in to the second half, they were 4-2 up, it should have been more, but they've just let TSM back into it.
And we head down then for round 12 into the basement. A repeat of round 11, but not a repeat of composition. A number of changes coming in for FURIA, where to me at least, this is looking very dug in. They're playing behind a Jaeger. They've got the Kaid on side. They've got the Melusi. They've got the Mute. The Mute being the key one for me, because on the other side there is that Flores. We've talked about it a few times today, Tim. There are no shields for it to chew its way through. Well, there's the one out of the smoke, but there's no Goyo to have multiple shields spaced around. So I'm curious to see where those are going to be focused here, because they can get rid of things like the ADSs, like the Banshees, make life a little bit easier for TSM to work their way forward, and really the only impediment they'll meet will be those Mute Jammers themselves. The hatch here being electrified inside of Moto and the one inside of Kitchen, so with those two locked off, it's going to be a bit of work at TSM to get those open.
I've got a feeling that this map and this round is going to come down to a crazy last 20 seconds. I've just got a feeling that FURIA are going to play it a little bit coy at the beginning here, because they have struggled on the roam. TSM, I commented on it last round, they've had a couple of attacks here on Church and Arsenal where they have dealt with that roam game extremely well. They've given FURIA absolutely nowhere to go, and as you can see, FURIA are already sort of dipping themselves back towards site. They're not too keen on sticking around on those upper floors and trying to waste time. They're all back downstairs inside of the first minute. They've decided that guns on site is the way to go.
I'm not sure how I feel about that either. Like, we've seen some big 3Ks out of players like Fantasy. That said, a C4 coming out from Highs is going to connect onto Achieved. He's not dead and he's safe now that he's back on solid ground. So we'll find himself back on his feet, counting his lucky stars, no doubt, because a Pokeball might be enough to finish him off here. Looking towards you on that front lender, or potentially the second C4 that can come out of Rare. Down to that 90-second mark here, and the hatches are still being worked on. Lender lurking below, just waiting for this to pop open, and Charla to misstep even the tiniest bit, but he's played it very sensibly and won't find himself going down.
Halfway through the round then, we see the Rotero drones going in, just looking to clear blue corridor out. Maybe it gives us a little bit of an insight into exactly how this late push is going to go down when we get to that stage. Charla's opening hatches. TSM should be well ahead of the game here. They've had plenty of time on this mid floor. Achieved has taken a little bit of damage. I say a little bit, he's taking about 80 health off him, and he's just still swinging away, opening things up.
Did catch him with that C4, yes. Putting quite low, back on his feet, of course. The other side you're looking towards, though, is that both of those Mavericks have been used to open up the two hatches down towards the south. On the other side of things, they put the exothermic on the floor next to the hatch, and the destruction radius then blows the hatch out as a result. You see this used sometimes on maps like Villa inside a study to open up the reinforced wall into games. You put it on the floor, opens up a nice Hibana-shaped hole off to the left, so haven't strictly got to pull it directly on the hatch, but you do, of course, risk getting it shot out through the soft floor. Good stuff so far by TSM, and you said it would all go crazy in the last 20, Tim. It looks like it's about to go crazy.
Olo starts us off with a kill onto Rare. Gio's getting the plant down. I'm not sure that FURIA can do anything about this, Des. All angles are covered, and all of a sudden they've come out with a great attack here, TSM. Fantasy Eyes, they managed to do something, but it feels like it's just a band-aid on a serious injury at this point. Gio gets the kill onto Lender. It's 1v2. It's all down to Highs. He's going to move himself towards Astro's spot. Gio's watching it. He knows he's got his head glitch behind the bomb chassis. He's just waiting for the push. There it is. He dips away from the fight. Highs manages to get himself inside his sight, but shut down by Charla, who had the crossfire. And Des, we're going to overtime on Clubhouse.
It feels like a while since we said those words, Tim. Overtime for me and you. I'm ecstatic about it. Let's go. And like said, FURIA are starting on the defense, and I was fearful of this. Both teams have taken a 4-2 attacking half, and TSM get 2 more swings of the bat on the attack. Not just that, but off the back of several successful attacks in a row. How many now? 3 back-to-back. They're at a spot where I'm thinking, okay, they can now go on to do this. They can win this next round. Maybe they'll lose on the defense, and then that next attacking round is going to be the one. FURIA, no doubt, coming out of that first half thinking, man, again, we should have been 6-0, if not 5-1. It was 4-2. Okay, we can close this out on defense. They've shown that clearly they can't, and TSM have got all that momentum behind them.
Clinching games is a skill in itself. It's something that, you know, takes work, it takes practice. It's part of the mental game, getting yourself over the finish line. You can win as many rounds as you like, but there's one that is always more important than the rest, and that is the map point. And FURIA have been unable to just push themselves or throw themselves over the line, drag themselves. Anything would have done for the Brazilian side, but no, TSM, they've had a firm grip on FURIA's heels, and they've just been able to weigh them down, sandbag them enough to drag them back in and bring us now to a best of 3 overtime. It's going to be CCTV and Cash from FURIA. Played it back in round 10, got the opening kill, but guess what, Des? It was a TSM win.
Off the back of an achieved 3K at that too. It's one of those you're looking at and just thinking, can FURIA really hold on? The momentum, again with TSM, the performance on this site there with TSM. So it's about the changes. And you're seeing it in the comp coming out of FURIA, right? It's no longer a aggressive, roaming, get out in the map course, trouble style setup. It's much more dug in. They've got the Goyo, they've got the Mute, they've got the Smoke, the Wamai to protect those shields again, dropping away the Jaeger. The Loose is kind of filling in on that spot. So for TSM, they haven't got to worry too much about what's going on around the map. Sure, get some drones in to make sure Rare isn't being too cheeky, which he is right now towards Bedroom. Once you've got that covered, all your focus and all your time and resources goes in towards the site. It's going to be Garage just a big focus, I think, because last time Lender got the opening kill from there onto the Garage door, but once he was shut down, 2 members of TSM burst up those stairs and site was their sole focus.
TSM just look, honestly, like a bit of a different side compared to the one that we saw in the first 4 or 5 rounds, and they've really grown into this one. Look at that from Merc, shuts down Fantasy inside a lounge, catching him from the main door, telling him to have a little rest and putting him to sleep there. It's going to be Rare over on the bedroom side, just trying to hold down any potential construction push, but FURIA, they just feel like they're grasping at straws a little bit. TSM again doing quick work. It's something that's been really sort of, you know, characteristic of this attack of TSM has been the first 30 seconds. Both lower garage walls were breached. East wall was breached.
Oh
and we were barely into the round. Charlotte, Bolo, fine kills. FURIA, they've lost their head, Des. It's falling apart. They just can't do anything right at this point. Miracle taking a difficult challenge with an SMG. You can't keep feeding Bolo on the rappel like that.
It very quickly fell to tatters for FURIA as they tried to take gunfight after gunfight, but they have been torn asunder. TSM looking poised to close this one out. Miracle finding one. It's still got some canisters to play behind, but he knows that there are 4 of them squaring up. Both of them blown out now. He's going to have about 40 seconds to play with, in which he needs to hold back a TSM assault. They've got 2 in garage. 1 coming in near side on the breach. Gio is tucked in. He's going to have to swing with the shotgun, and there are 2 of them. 3 of them watching. They're ready. They get the shutout. TSM up to match and series point. Not a line that I thought I would have said 7 rounds ago.
TSM somehow have dragged themselves back and now find themselves in the lead for the first time on Clubhouse. This has been a fantastic performance from the North American side, and the resolve that we want to see out of that region, able to win the difficult games when they are really challenged and put backs to the wall, and they've shown us an ability to do that. Very impressive from TSM, and I'm sure a lot of teams in the competition are going to be paying close attention to this performance from them.
And look, there is the Panic Monty again. We saw it back on Villa coming out of Lender in round 7. Feels like it's going to be a thing. In fact, no, switched away. What are they stepping over to? Finka going to be what joins them. So now they've got 6 frag grenades to play behind. Iana, Maverick and the Finka coming in. That's a lot of tools, a lot of damage to play with, Tim. But is it going to be enough? Are they not going to be rattled after those 4 or 5 rounds in a row they've now lost? TSM go down to the basement. Gio once again stepping onto playing the castle. And blow your mind all the way back to... what was it? Was it round 3 where he got a 1 versus 3? FURIA should have come to be had that round win, and we said at the time it may come back to haunt them. So far it is. They've got to get this round at least absolutely spot on, or TSM take it away from them. And that victory for FURIA against BDS yesterday, it starts to feel like a distant memory.
It definitely does haunt them. You know, the reality is they had a couple of map points that don't exist if you don't give Gio a 1v3. And, you know, gifting it to him is the only way to describe it realistically, unfortunately for FURIA. But they are still in this one, Des. They're on the attack. It was something that we saw TSM struggle to control. They're going to be going down to basement. If we have a look back at TSM's defences, they played Church 1, 2, 3 times and only won 1 of them. So, no, actually, they won 2 of them. They got 2 wins on Church, so they managed to lock the basement down twice. This could be a difficult one for FURIA. They need to deal with Geo quickly this time.
You think it's the fact that they need to get off the board and just remove
He just wasted a lot of time, and there's no real reason for him to. Just get into strip, push him from both sides and clear him out.
Well, with the castle barricade on the main stairs, you've just seen Bolo go charging his way up top, not really out of worry of risk. Going to drop his way back down here. Imagine he's chucked himself down a goo mine or 2 and then bailed out of dodge. Just littering them through the main hallway, all the way down the main stairs and waiting. And even Merc's looking to challenge up onto the front door. There is a man here, it's Fantasy. Can't find the shot, but by taking those shots, he gives himself away. A great nade over the top, not going to find Merc as he has got out of dodge, did not pause at the bar for a drink, has gone straight down the main stairs.
Like you say, Fantasy there, just giving Merc the opportunity to move away, taking the couple of shots, just announcing his presence. Lender's trying to get something going. He's got the angle all the way through to Moto from blue there, but don't know that Charlie's going to quite expose himself. The rotation's on the other side, so he's going to be able to move safely behind the generator. Needs to be careful he doesn't step too far across, though. There is one in Oil Pit as well. Charlie's just sort of dicing with death at the minute, but he's going to maintain his position for now. Nade comes in, so he has to push forward. He's getting aggressive. What a shot from Charlotte! Flicks across the head of Fantasy, and that is what TSM needed. Des, they've just hit the crest of the wave. The question is, can they surf it all the way to victory now?
Can they hold on without Fantasy has got to be the big question. TSM, this will be one of the reversals of the tournament if they can pull this one back. We're down to 60 seconds. FURIA have got to get a move on. They've got 2 hatches open. Kitchen still closed up. That's given the indication to TSM of where this attack might come from. Achieved is set up inside of dirt, so they know there's also no pressure coming from there. It's a good read. They know how to respond and be ready. Sharla, this is the round to go big. He's been quiet so far and found 2. Geo, you said after having gone ace, he's now been removed from the picture. But 4 versus 3, and we're entering that final 30 seconds of the round.
Polo gets aggressive, just steps out into the corridor, onto the elbow, finds Rare, and it is all falling apart for FURIA. There's going to be big questions for them to ask in the post-mortem of this game, but Miracle manages to find Charlie, keeps things alive before being downed. Highs, it's all up to you in a 1 versus 3. It just feels like a question of who from TSM is going to find the final shot. It's going to be Merc as he finds the man in blue. TSM fight their way back from 4-2 down and what felt like utter domination in the first half from FURIA, but TSM, they prove that NA are here. They have arrived and they are ready to play. They are nowhere near the airport, Des. They are looking for a good run in this tournament.
Who would have said that the close qual teams are going to be the ones that defy expectations and surprise everyone? Eminem, an unbelievable performance earlier on today, and now it's TSM's turn to step up and make themselves heard. From 4-6 to 8-6, 4 rounds in a row on a map that isn't their map pick, that they don't have a great history on. But that is a magical turnaround. Absolutely love seeing that. And for them, the start that all the NA fans are hoping for, given how things have played so far for the region.
I've said it a couple of times, I'll say it again. I came into this one really hopeful for NA. I want to see every region in the world competing because it gives us the best Siege possible to watch. And boy, have they delivered so far. Great performance from TSM there, and hopefully we're going to see more of that. They've just shown that they can really knuckle down when it's needed.
And that's the kind of composure you need in a competition like this. When we go through to the playoff stages, when one wrong move gets you knocked out the competition, that composure to get back into the game is what's going to make the difference. And although, again, we said those 2 rounds that were lost in the first half were really lost by FURIA rather than won by TSM, at the end of the day, a goal's a goal, a round is a round, and they did enough to get themselves over the finish line.
Got a feel for FURIA. 5-7 on the first map, overtime on the second, but they walk away with nothing. 0 points for FURIA. A 3v1 clutch that was, well, a 1v3 clutch, a 3v1 situation that was thrown away, unfortunately. Geo played it well, but boy oh boy, FURIA are going to be kicking themselves, I think.
It's a kicker, but TSM fans rejoice. They have arrived at the competition and they've started it off with 3 points after a 2-0. That's us done with casting for today, but don't go anywhere because after the break, our analysts will break down this game a little more for you. We'll see you guys tomorrow.